Chapter 1062. He's basically insulting me. He's insulting all of Hollywood. He's insulting all the filmmakers in the world. This was a decision he had made in a hurry. He's fooling around. I've also seen his past deeds. He's arrogant, rude, and condescending. I had nothing to do with him in the past and I didn't care what kind of person he was. But now he's extending his evil claws to the film industry that I've worked hard for all my life. You don't know how angry I am. I admit that I've agreed to the Wuxia people leaving their names on the handprint wall out of business considerations, but not right, Chen. No matter how much money I have. I can't leave such a stain on my life that I can't get rid of. Tang Xiaokai looked at the old man who looked like an enraged lion. He really couldn't do anything to him. After a few minutes, the old man calmed down a little and shook his head repeatedly. I'm sorry, Mr. Tang. I lost my composure. But I sincerely hope that you can understand that it is out of deep consideration that I have refused your request. Even if you have a close relationship with the other 2 or 3 shareholders of the Wuxia Theater, at least for now, the Zhou Xian family still has the final say in this theater, right? Tang Xiaokai rubbed his wrinkled eyebrows. All right. But Mr. Zhou Xian, you'll definitely regret it in the future. You actually don't understand Chen Guang at all. You should watch the movie first before making a decision. Donald shook his head. There's no need for that. I know the standard of the Wuxia film industry very well. If the director was Ong Li, I would watch it, but it's not. Of course, to maintain our friendship, even if it's Theater 14, I'll specially allocate a publicity platform for you guys. It won't be smaller than the others and it'll be convenient for you guys to walk the red carpet and hold the premiere. I've really tried my best. Tang Xiaokai finally heard some good news. That's it then. But I still insist on my point of view. You'll definitely regret it. Donald smiled. I also insist on my own point of view. If I really regret it, I'll only wear a tie and plaid underwear and run one round around the Wuxia Theater. When the time comes, I will invite a reporter from the New York Times to take a special photo of you. When Chen Guang appears on the cover of Time magazine as an Oscar winner, your photo will be on the left and right of his feet. Haha, no problem. I won't sue you for infringing on my portrait rights. I can even sign an authorization document right now. Tang Xiaokai made a very rude joke before he left, but Donna did not take it seriously at all. Tang Xiaokai didn't take a car. Instead, he walked to the Flemington Hotel followed by 10 armed bodyguards in black. Along the way, he was thinking about how he should explain this awkward situation to Chen Guang. Theater 14 could only accommodate 150 people. Although it was also an IMAX giant screen, it was embarrassing that the world premiere was held in such a remote and small theater. Although many other cinemas had been settled, their statuses were not the same. Also, because of the haste, the preparation time was too short and it was Christmas today, they really couldn't invite many celebrities to support them. It would be very awkward when the time came. Thinking about it carefully, the promotion platform that Don had promised was also a scam. I don't have many people, how can I walk the red carpet with my head? The more he thought about that old man's face, the more he hated it. Forget it anyway, the hard conditions for the Oscars had been met. The thing that Chen Guang asked him to do was to help him get it released before December 31st. According to him, it wouldn't matter even if he found a small commercial theater in any corner of Los Angeles to play it. Since he could find the Wuxia Theater in Hollywood, he had done a good job as a friend. He would leave the rest of the matter to him. According to Yu Hong, he had almost stopped all other businesses in Tianguang Group, and was even prepared to spend almost 90% of the company's liquidity on this. That was $40 million. Just how crazy was this guy? Tang Xiaokai felt that he couldn't understand Chen Guang's crazy way of doing things, but he was in no position to stop him. It was because he couldn't understand it that he couldn't give any practical advice. In addition, he had a lot of things to do. It was enough for him to spend 2 or 3 days to help sue Quebec. As for the promotion and marketing, he could send some people to help him. Tang Xiaokai knew Yu Hong, Fong Tianyu and Su Li very well, so he didn't worry that Chen Guang had no people to help him. It was said that Fong Tianyu had found a close friend called Buttface. Since the two of them could be together, Buttface must be quite capable. When Tang Xiaokai arrived at the hotel, Chen Guang and the other 2 people had just stayed there for less than 15 minutes. Mr. Tang, Mr. Chen and the other 2 people have just fallen asleep. Do you need me to wake them up? The receptionist arranged by Tang Xiaokai had just accompanied Chen Guang and the other 2 people from the airport to this hotel, so he was quite familiar with the situation. Tang Xiaokai waved his hand. No, I'll go to my room first. I need to deal with some company affairs. When he was talking, he saw a figure walking out of the hall in the distance. It was Qin Guang. Yo. Long time no see. Qin Guang's eyes were sharper than Tang Xiaokai's, so he greeted him from a distance. Tang Xiaokai walked up to him with a smile and whispered in Qin Guang's ear, "What? Brother-in-law, don't you want to take a rest?" Qin Guang waved his hand. "I don't need to rest. I'll sleep when it gets dark." "Wait, what did you call me just now?" Tang Xiaokai smiled and continued to say sneakily, "Brother-in-law." Qin Guang jumped back. *T, don't talk nonsense. Be careful or your sister will strangle you to death. You don't know, do you? Last week I went to Moorlands to meet my sister. She was crazy. She talked about you every time she opened her mouth. From your charisma to your genetic arrangement, I even suspect that she is preparing to give birth to your child." Qin Guang. Pfft. Genetic arrangement my ass. Give birth to a child my ass. Wait, Tang Ying is analyzing my genetic arrangement now? Last time I shot it at her. Go. Qin Guang couldn't help but think that if a simple genetic analysis couldn't satisfy her scientific ideals, with Tang Ying's previous performance as a medical maniac, she might really do something crazy like combining two people's chromosomes. She would definitely want to study the changes that would happen after her genes intersect with an ordinary person's to give birth to an embryo. Bastard. You won't even let your own child go. Thinking of this, Qin Guang couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. Let's not talk about your sister first. Just call me Qin Guang. You're older than me anyway. Alright, how's my matter this time? I'm sorry for troubling you. You're so busy every day. Tang Xiaokai waved his hand. It's fine. Brother-in-law's business, I have to take care of it. My sister also said that she is working with Moorlands and Gokyo University to set up a research institute to study your genes. This is probably the most high-end pregnancy preparation plan I've ever seen. Qin Guang, who had just sat down and took a sip of his tea, almost spat it all over Tang Xiaokai's face. Pregnancy preparation, your head. Stop talking nonsense. Why didn't I hear it like this? She already talked to me about the research institute before she came to America. She wants to do research on genetic medicine, but it's not just my genes. Isn't that a joke? I'm begging you, I'm in a mess right now. Don't go off topic. Tang Xiaokai stopped joking. Alright, let's get back to the main topic. But don't be angry at me. I've settled the matter of the screening for you. I've found a medium-sized distribution company, and my Tang Jie Foundation has a leading position. In addition, Deng Xiaojiang and I went through some channels to get the approval from the Copyright Office, so it was approved very quickly. As for the cinema, almost every major city in America has a simultaneous screening. It's through my distribution company, so there's no problem with that. Qin Guang nodded and gave a thumbs up. Well done. Tang Xiaokai shook his head. Don't be too happy. It's only been 5 to 6 days since you informed me. With my capabilities, I can only do so much. Although I suddenly cut the queue and managed to get into the cinema screening, the initial publicity is basically zero. Although I've already spent a few million USD to pave the way for you, it's just a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. The time is too short and the movie still doesn't have any influence in America. If you want to create an effect in just a few days, the publicity fees will probably be in the hundreds of millions. This is too much. Qin Guang waved his hand. It's fine. Thanks for the trouble. I'll pay you back later. Tang Xiaokai shook his head. No need. This is my personal money. Just treat it as me buying fewer cars this year. But there's a problem that's quite awkward. The premiere theater I contacted for you is called Hollywood Wuxia Theater. Qin Guang's eyes lit up. I know. I just looked it up on the internet. Not bad, young man. You're awesome. Tang Xiaokai sighed. The Wuxia Theater is awesome, but the problem is that I only got the last place, the most secluded theater, number 14. It can only hold 150 people. Number 14? Dying? That's not auspicious. What else? There's only 13 left. Damn. That's even more inauspicious. That's why the premiere of Women will probably be the ugliest premiere in history. Qin Guang shook his head. That won't be the case. There was a movie called Baby, Did You Have Breakfast Today? The premiere was held in my hometown's county cinema. Tang Xiaokai stared at him. Damn. You're too easily satisfied. You're Qin Guang. You should be more ambitious. Say, your intentions are too obvious. I'm even worried that you've aroused the resentment of the people in the film industry. You originally had the chance to get number 7 theater, but the person in charge of the Wuxia theater, Donald Zhou Xian, is unhappy with you. So the deal didn't go through. I originally wanted you to leave your name on the handprint wall, but it failed. Qin Guang shook his head nonchalantly. It's impossible for my intentions not to be obvious. Normal people wouldn't be like me and suddenly decide to try for the Olympic Games. It's understandable. Chapter 1063. You're quite open-minded. Oh, there's another problem. What is it? Logically speaking, we should get some celebrities to help promote the premiere. I've tried contacting many people before, but it was too rushed. But this was too hasty. Those with status had other plans for Christmas. Otherwise, even if it was an important family gathering, they would not be able to attend. Those who are willing to fly to Los Angeles at such an important time are not big enough. I thought it would be pointless to come, so I didn't ask them. So, Qin Guang suddenly understood. He remembered that Deng Xiaojiang had told him about the premiere in Wuxia yesterday. It was a gathering of heroes. Other than the main cast members, there were at least 20 to 30 A-list and A-list celebrities. Celebrities, politicians and business tycoons from all walks of life could fill up half the seats in the screening hall in Yanjing. All the major media outlets were fighting for a ticket. Looking back at his side, it was like the difference between Manhattan and Chengjigo. The scene was collapsing. Forget it, of course it's not your fault. After all, we didn't have the intention to release it globally at the beginning. I've also disrupted Big Beard's overall plan. If Tianguang Group hadn't become the major shareholder of the movie, Big Beard wouldn't have been able to change my mind. You wouldn't have gone crazy with me like this. As for whether the premiere looks miserable or not, it doesn't matter. The Oscars are about the art of the movie. This is my core advantage. I'm confident in this. Tang Xiaokai nodded. I know you're not short of money. You can earn a lot of money now. What you really care about is not the box office. But if the box office performance is too miserable, I'm afraid it will affect your next step in the Olympic Games. It's fine here in Los Angeles. With the budget you've taken out, your promotion will be everywhere tomorrow morning. But it'll be too late for other cities. The most likely situation will be that, other than here in Los Angeles, your women can only have a 3-day tour in many other cities. This is very disadvantageous. Although only a small group of people are voting, the overall box office and reputation of the movie are extremely important. This will sway other people's opinions. What if the film critics don't even have time to watch your movie and take it off the screen? Qin Guang shrugged. There's nothing we can do about it. What's done is done. We'll just have to take it one step at a time. We can't hold back our urine. Let's go to the Hollywood Wuxia Theater. I want to see how awesome this place is. Tang Xiaokai stood up as well. I don't even know where your determination comes from. Qin Guang turned around and smiled meaningfully. This is a matter of life and death. I can't be careless. I don't have a way out. Tang Xiaokai didn't know what was going on. He followed behind and asked, Is it that serious? Qin Guang nodded. It's that serious. The two of them strolled all the way to the entrance of the Wuxia Theater and looked inside from afar. It was Friday afternoon and it was still working hours, but the place was bustling with people. Qin Guang put his hands behind his back and stood under the handprint wall. He looked across the long square and sighed. It's quite extravagant. Tang Xiaokai nodded. But the more extravagant it looks, the more awkward your situation will be during the premiere next Monday. It doesn't matter. I don't care about the premiere at all. You don't even know how I can turn things around. I'll bet $5 that you've never seen a heroine before. Tang Xiaokai's face turned red. Needless to say, Qin Guang had guessed correctly. Actually, he had never seen Qin Guang acting cool before Donald. His confidence in Qin Guang was only because of what Qin Guang had done in the past and how decisive Qin Guang was this time. Thus, he subconsciously made a judgment in his heart. Of course, he had been exceptionally arrogant and confident in front of Donald previously. That was also because he couldn't afford to lose even if he lost. A young talent on Wall Street had to have such an imposing manner. I'm too busy. Sorry. F***ck, you really haven't seen it before. Humph. Speaking of which, cult leader Huang can leave his name on the handprint wall, but he doesn't even let me. That's a little stingy. Qin Guang pointed at a name that was a mixture of English and Chinese. It was student Xiao Ming. Tang Xiaokai shrugged. He's an A-list male star in the country, all right? He's been popular for many years. As the two of them were chatting idly, a fat figure walked down from the stairs at the entrance of the Wuxia theater. Qin Guang followed Tang Xiaokai's gaze and looked over. There was a tall and handsome brown-haired white man beside the fat white-haired old man. The fat old man was chatting with him with a mocking smile on his face. The brown-haired white man nodded repeatedly. There was a hint of disdain in his eyes and the corners of his mouth. The two of them laughed as they walked. After taking 2 steps, they looked up and saw Tang Xiaokai and Qin Guang not far away. Tang Xiaokai did not intend to let Qin Guang and Donald meet. In his opinion, the two of them were not the kind of people who could easily get along with others. Especially when the two of them had yet to meet, but they had already crossed swords here. Donald could not stand Qin Guang because of his own reasons. Although Qin Guang did not say anything, it was impossible for him to not feel anything after being thrown into Theater 14 and refused to leave his name on the handprint wall. Once the two of them met, it would be like Mars colliding with Earth. Not only would it not improve the situation, but it would also make things worse. However, as the saying went, whatever you fear will happen. This old man is the general manager of the Wuxia Theater, Donald Zhou Xian, right? Qin Guang said in Mandarin without turning his head. Tang Xiaokai nodded and said helplessly, "It's him." One tall and one short, one old and one middle-aged, one fat and one thin, and the brown-haired, middle-aged handsome Caucasian man walked closer to each other. Donald put away the smile on his face and put on a businesslike look. "Mr. Tang, this is Mr. Qin Guang, the male lead and investor of women?" Before Tang Xiaokai could answer, Qin Guang said with his hands behind his back, "That's me, Mr. Donald." Donald's face turned cold. Although he did not like Qin Guang, how could he not know that Qin Guang was a master of all languages? How could he not know the difference between an American surname and a first name? This guy had obviously called him by the wrong name on purpose. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Guang." He gritted his teeth and returned the favor. Qin Guang pretended to be enlightened. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Zhou Xian." Tang Xiaokai turned his face away quietly. He had wanted to try and smooth things over, but fortunately he did not overestimate himself. How was he supposed to smooth things over? He felt that they should just fight in the ancient Roman Colosseum. I hope they don't really fight. Otherwise Donald might die. Although Donald did not like Qin Guang, he knew that there was no need to offend him too much. He would wait for Qin Guang to change his words and he would change his words as well. "Mr. Qin, forgive me for being presumptuous, but I heard that you want to participate in this year's Oscars. Is that true? Or is it just a beautiful coincidence that you're trying so hard to get your movie released on Christmas Day?" Qin Guang nodded and smiled. "Mr. Zhou Xian, I know that in your heart the Chinese are usually humble and polite. Even if I really had such a plan, I should be very humble and tell you that I don't have such unrealistic thoughts. But I'm sorry, I'm a very honest person and I say whatever I want to say. You're right, I'm indeed here for the Oscars." Qin Guang had thought it through. Regardless of whether he admitted it or not, the people in the Western film industry were not fools. How could they not understand his intentions when they were so obvious? He would not be able to get more points if he continued to hide it, so he might as well admit it directly and tell everyone in the American Film Institute that he, Qin Guang, was here for the Oscars. Donald Zhou Xian did not seem surprised by his answer. His old face trembled slightly. "It's exactly as I thought. You're as arrogant as the rumors and what you've shown on the internet." Qin Guang cupped his hands. "Sorry for the disrespect. In China, this is called having a card up your sleeve and not fighting a battle unprepared. I was a little ashamed when I moved you guys from Hall 7 to Hall 14, but I'm completely at ease now. I even regret agreeing to your request to screen your movie in the Wuxia Theater." Qin Guang was not angry. "No, this will be your honor in the future, Mr. Zhou Xian. You might even witness the birth of a new era in the film industry. I would also like to thank you, Mr. Zhou Xian. I'm honored to be able to hold the world premiere in your theater, even if it's only Hall 14. Donald Zhou Xian knew that he had always been criticized by the people in the industry for his bad temper and being difficult to deal with. However, he suddenly felt that Qin Guang was even more despicable than people like him. He was obviously certain that he had signed the contract and he was not willing to pay the price of going back on his word. That's right, he's here to humiliate me and the North American film industry. I really feel sorry for myself. I shouldn't have given face to the Tang Jie Foundation a few days ago. Mr. Tang, can you communicate with your friend? He's too difficult to communicate with. Donald turned his attention to Tang Xiaokai. He really did not want to chat with Qin Guang anymore. Tang Xiaokai was secretly laughing so hard that his stomach hurt. Qin Guang was ruthless. He knew that the other party was regretting it, yet he still thanked him. This was worse than scolding him directly. This guy scolded and exposed people's shortcomings without using any vulgarities. Why didn't he realize that he was so black-bellied in the past? Tang Xiaokai held back his laughter and coughed. Mr. Zhou Xian, my friend Qin Guang is very polite. Is there anything wrong with what he said? Zhou Xian could not take it anymore and decided to leave. He turned to the brown-haired middle-aged man beside him and said, William, I have something to attend to. I'll leave first. Talk to you another day. He did not even want to say goodbye. He had already lost his last bit of courtesy. After taking 2 steps, he held back his temper and turned back. Mr. Qin, I wish you a great premiere. Chapter 1064. He made up his mind. Originally, he had only planned to give the premiere of Women the same scale as the other movies. But the day after tomorrow he would slightly shrink the space for the others. He would give them the widest red carpet, the largest screen, and even 1/5 of the handprint wall square. At that time, the more space you take up, the more empty your booths and red carpet will look. Shameful Chinese, I will make you the biggest joke of Christmas. I will make people laugh at you in the newspapers and media. The world premiere of the desolate 14th screening hall. I have to let you know that what you do in China will not work here. After Donald walked far away, the tall and handsome brown-haired white man did not leave. Instead, he looked back at Qin Guang with great interest and said, You were talking too fast just now. I couldn't even get a word in. Let me introduce myself, William Jones. Qin Guang did not know who this person was, but Tang Xiaokai immediately remembered and introduced him to Qin Guang. Qin Guang, this is the male lead of the Sunshine Man, William Jones. He is one of the hot favorites for this year's Oscars. Qin Guang was suddenly interested and was about to speak. But William Jones' face suddenly fell. Mr. Qin, no matter whether I win the award or not, I sincerely hope that I will not see you at the award ceremony. Otherwise, I will think that it is a mockery and humiliation to me. Goodbye. Oh no, it would be best if we never see each other again. After he finished speaking, he followed Donald's example and turned to leave without hesitation. Qin Guang felt that he might be afraid of being beaten to death here. Damn it, the old man had been beating the geese all day long, but now he was being pecked in the eye by the geese. The old man was the king of acting tough, but now he was being bullied by a pretentious guy. Don't stop me. I will beat the hell out of you. Calm down. Brother Guang, calm down. Weren't you very black-bellied just now? You can't lose your cool. I don't care how good your acting skills are, but you can't have any negative news about you. Otherwise it will blow up. In the end, Qin Guang was stopped by Tang Xiaokai. Tang Xiaokai was right. This trip to the United States had brought countless black marks. It didn't matter if he didn't have any desires, but what he wanted was to be recognized by the American Film Association and become the new best actor. At that time, the negative news would be too strong and he would be publicized as a violent maniac. He would be feared like a tiger and he wouldn't even be able to enter other people's doors. He wouldn't even be able to see them. How would he be able to communicate with others and bribe them to his side? Forget it, there's no use beating him up anyway. Damn it, not only do I have to appear in front of him at the award ceremony, I also have to snatch the trophy from his hands. I'll piss you off to death. Qin Guang forcefully found a reason for himself to let the other party go. He was very domineering. The two of them stormed back to the Flemington Hotel. Tang Xiaokai couldn't stay here anymore. He excused himself to Qin Guang and left. Before he left, he gave Qin Guang a bargaining chip. I know you're determined to win an Oscar. To be honest, before you came here I got some hints from some people. Many people think that it's not a bad thing if you really win an Oscar. Actually, I have a budget specially prepared for you. If your company can't hold on any longer, you can let me know. Then Qin Guang said, I can't hold on any longer. Take it out quickly. It would be a waste not to take it. Tang Xiaokai turned around and ran, completely lacking the demeanor of a Wall Street elite. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen someone as shameless as this. You've only spent a little of the $40 million you prepared, and you still have the nerve to ask me for money? What a drug dealer. At around 1 in the afternoon, Feng Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang both woke up. Of course, the two of them hadn't slept enough, but since they had to adjust their biological clocks, they couldn't get enough sleep during the day. The rest earlier was just to adjust their working state. The two of them first went to Qin Guang's room to report and then went out to busy themselves. Qin Guang locked himself in his room to write a book. That's right, his new book was called World School Performing Arts. It was very simple, straightforward, and shameless. He even came up with a subtitle. The truth 7 billion people want to know. There's a fourth type of acting in the world that completely surpasses experiential, methodological, and expressive types. You're not earthling if you don't watch. Calculating the time, Qin Guang had to come up with a full set of theoretical knowledge and practical learning and application framework in 5 days. The workload was quite heavy. Since his arrival had already caused conflict in the European and American industries in advance, there was no doubt that as the publicity continued, he would become more and more conspicuous and hated. However, there was no turning back. He couldn't give up the publicity plan just because he was afraid. Otherwise, the movie would be a complete flop in North America. It would have a 3-day theatrical run and not many people would have seen it. What should he do? The senior members of the American Film Institute who had voting rights had never been to the cinema before. They had never heard of it. How was he going to convince them? Knock on the door of every house with a Blu-ray disc, tie people to a chair and force them to watch it? Alright, even though I have this plan, there can't be too many people. I can handle 1, 2, or 10 people, but how am I going to tie up hundreds or thousands of people? No matter what, I have to use publicity to get people into the cinema first. At least let them have a first impression. It won't be too bad, so it'll be easier to do later on. Therefore, Qin Guang knew that he couldn't do it, but he had to do it. However, he couldn't let the situation continue to develop in a direction that was disadvantageous to him. After all, if the worst situation happened, there would be no reason for him to just rely on words. He could only do what he did in the past. In this field that was difficult to quantify, he had to show his absolute strength and win everyone's respect. Before all the attention was on him, he would use this book to change the impression of some people who were prejudiced against him. He would make them doubt themselves, and in the end they would obediently walk into the cinema. At that time, these people would have a completely different feeling when they combined this monograph with his performance in Women. Therefore, Qin Guang couldn't be careless. Either he didn't write this book or he wrote a book that could make people kneel on the ground and sing Conquest. The old man didn't believe it. The old man's knowledge came from the devil training of the Holy Grail. He didn't use it usually because he didn't want to scare people to tears. You forced me to do this. The next day, under the operation of Feng Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang, large posters of Women appeared on the streets of Los Angeles. It was even more crazy and thorough than when Hero and Shaolin Soccer were released in the United States. There had never been many people like him who had no bottom line and used money to open the way. Although Americans advocated freedom, they advocated US dollars more. Although there were stubborn old men like Donald Zhou Xian, there were more businessmen in the advertising and business circles who had no bottom line. As long as you have US dollars, you can even buy my life, let alone my billboards. Although everything was prepared in a hurry, the Tianguang group that went all out brought out the strongest fighting force in history. When Qin Guang and the others took off in the Boeing 787, the Tianguang group had already started to prepare the resources for the entire supporting publicity. Feng Tianyu negotiated with several printing companies overnight and urgently contacted and paid for it in China. The freshly released electronic files of the North American version of the poster were sent from China and distributed by Feng Tianyu to printing companies one after another. The posters that were hung in countless squares and streets were beautifully made and creative. They even carried the fragrance of fresh ink. Lu Xiaoyang, on the other hand, was like a fighting chicken, waving US dollars and negotiating with one advertising contractor after another. Not only in Los Angeles but also in the world-famous New York Times Square, there were also large posters with Qin Guang's big face printed on them. In addition to the promotion of the movie itself, Lu Xiaoyang decisively carried forward his boss's shameless style. I don't care what you do, I just have to brag about it first. His strategy was simple and straightforward, but it was effective. He avoided the shortcomings of Women itself and focused all the publicity resources on his boss alone, praising his acting skills to the skies. Women was too weak in other aspects. If they wanted to achieve the boss's goal, they could only do what he said, which was to focus all the light on him. They hoped that he could support the whole movie with his acting skills and rush for the Oscars. There were so many shameless advertising slogans that Liu Xiaoyang almost believed them. Don't say anything. Just write the script according to what I say. I read one sentence and you write one sentence. Mistral Qin is the greatest performing artist since the 19th century. His artistic achievements are a link between the past and the future. In the past 300 years, it is impossible to find a great artist who can be compared to him. He is about to come up with a truly epic-making monograph on the performing arts, just 2 days after the movie is released. It will completely subvert the current performing arts system. Everyone please wait and see. The poor reporter from New York Film Weekly, Bowen, was about to cry. Mistral Liu, if I write like this, my grandma will spank my ass when I get back. Liu Xiaoyang slammed $5,000 on the table in front of him. Take it, it's for your ass's medical expenses. My boss lacks everything but money. Bowen jumped up. My ex-girlfriend's writing is also very hard. I'll call her immediately. Liu Xiaoyang patted him on the shoulder. Good luck, Bowen. I like media people with attitudes like you. I have to leave now. The people from UBC are still waiting for me. You can contact my assistant for the rest of the matter. He just got off the plane and will call you in about 3 hours. With that, Comrade Xiao Lu patted his ass and left. As a former paparazzi, he had never been as generous as he was today, although his heart was bleeding when he spent $5,000. Damn, that's more than $30,000. Forget it, it's the boss's money anyway. Why would I feel any pain? Just as Liu Xiaoyang said, the follow-up team of 100 people from Tianguang Group was coming from China. In order to configure this huge team, they even borrowed many business elites who were proficient in English from Tianguang media and Tianguang culture. The battle horn of the entire group had been sounded and no one could stay out of it. Chapter 1065. On the surface, his publicity strategy seemed to have worked very well. His crazy actions even triggered a catfish effect, causing a chain reaction on the internet in Europe and the United States. Not only did the news media and public relations companies who had taken money from the Tianguang Group, but even some celebrities in Europe and the United States who had nothing to do with him expressed their views on this matter. Celebrities in the European and American entertainment circles, whether they were in the film, television, pop music or variety circles, all took the initiative to get involved. Although most of these people expressed that they only treated Qin Guang, the Wuxia man's shameless and crazy actions, as a joke, whether they praised or criticized him, they added a free fire to this matter. Overnight, not only in Los Angeles but also in the entire North American online world, almost everyone knew about this matter. After UBC, the TV station that took money to do things, made a positive publicity, many TV stations immediately jumped out and fiercely attacked Qin Guang from a negative angle because he didn't take the money to do the work. The same news even crossed the Atlantic Ocean and spread to another continent, causing a big sensation in Europe. In London, Milan, Paris, Cannes, Florence and Munich, these palaces of fashion and modern films, countless people stood up to support their film art and defend the dignity of the film industry. Qin Guang's arrogant and overly purposeful actions were like pouring molten iron into a basin of water. It instantly turned the entire film industry upside down, and the entire European and American entertainment circles were boiling. Everything was as Qin Guang had expected at the beginning. The news was basically negative. After all, there were too many angles that could be used to attack him for the Oscars with women. There were so many angles that he couldn't even count them himself. Everyone could find 10,000 reasons to express their disdain and ridicule towards him. But it didn't matter. He didn't care at all, and he didn't have the energy to care anymore. Even if it seemed that he had become the enemy of the world, he didn't care. It was just an ordinary Oscar Best Actor, which had never been his goal. How many Oscars had been held and how many Best Actors had been born? How many people had won the Best Actor award more than once or even 3 times? But no one had ever dared to bear the title of the world's Best Actor award. They didn't even dare to think about it or even mention it. It was precisely because the essence of the performing arts was art. It was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. It was too difficult to quantify, and it was too difficult for people to unreservedly acknowledge it. There would always be lingering disputes. Even if it was last year's best actor Xiao Li, if he dared to say such words he would immediately fall off the altar and spend the rest of his life in the ridicule and contempt of the world. If it was possible, Qin Guang also wanted to consolidate his position through a few consecutive championships. At the very least he wouldn't attract such a terrifying criticism. Unfortunately, the heavenly Holy Grail did not give him much time. He was destined to be unable to follow the thinking and model of ordinary people to complete his career. He had to first make enemies of the whole world in order to make himself stand on the opposite side of all criticism. When the whole world is doubting me and despising me, it is also when the whole world's attention is focused on me. Only at this moment, when I am in the center of the whirlpool, can I use my irresistible power to instantly shatter all the dark clouds covering my head. The employees of Tianguang Group knew how crazy their boss was, but with their realm and vision, they would never be able to understand where Qin Guang's madness came from. When the public opinion on the internet further spread back to the country, the negative effects even affected the promotion of the movie in the country. Gradually, voices came from Europe and America. Silently, a new concept appeared on the internet. All filmmakers and film lovers today, when the film industry is suffering the greatest humiliation, must unite and boycott this despicable and shameless Chinese internet celebrity. What do you take the Oscars for? What do you take movies for? What do you take art for? The cabbages in your backyard? The toys you buy for babies and children? You can control everything with money? Furthermore, you're not particularly rich. Even Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett don't have such power. Who do you think you are? The son of Nike's chairman Travis Knight is worth tens of billions of US dollars. In order to fulfill his movie dream, he finally came up with Legend of the Magic String. He only received a nomination, but he didn't even stand on the podium. He has more money than you, has more dreams than you, and is more focused than you. Even he doesn't dare to talk nonsense like this. Who do you think you are? So what if you have great achievements in other fields? You haven't even brought out your movie. You've only acted in an outdated play, Thunderstorm. How do you have the face to fight for the Oscars? Every filmmaker, every person who loves movies, if you still have dreams, if you still have perseverance, if you don't want to see the greatest art since mankind entered the 20th century become a joke, unite. Boycott him. Reject his news. Reject his hype. Reject his topics. Even refuse to talk about him. Most importantly, you have to reject his movie. Even if he gives you a free ticket, you have to throw it into your husky's kennel. Even a husky won't watch his movie. The voices grew louder and louder, crossing the Atlantic Ocean from North America to Europe, then crossing the time difference to rush to Asia and back to China. There was also an uproar in China. People in the world always had their own opinions. Qin Guang's die-hard fans, of course, spared no effort to stand up for him. But there were still all kinds of debates on the internet. Some people said that he had embarrassed himself abroad. Others said that before you scold him, look at his past, look at his achievements. What right do you have to doubt him? You don't even deserve to carry his shoes. Others said that those who say such ignorant words don't understand movies, don't understand acting, and lack a basic outlook on life. They are all brainless young people who haven't matured yet. This is the standard. If you can do it, then do it. If I can't refrigerate, then I can't scold the fridge? Others said that you just can't bear to see the Chinese struggle for their dreams. When the whole world is criticizing and mocking him, why can't we, who have the same yellow skin and black hair as him, give him a touch of warmth when the whole world is throwing cold knives at him? Even if he fails in the end, isn't his dream of becoming the first Chinese best actor in history great? People like you who don't have dreams don't have the right to laugh at his dream. Others said that you idiots only know how to talk on the internet. If you want to support his dream, then go vote for the Oscars. Do you even have the right to vote? Anyway, we originally planned to watch this movie for Jin Shuiwei and Zhang Yache. But now, forget it, we can't afford to lose face. All kinds of thoughts were fermenting on the internet and in reality boiling like a pot of thick soup. In the long history of the Oscars for nearly 90 years, there had never been a movie that had caused such a shocking criticism and rejection before it had even been nominated. Although the entertainment circle had a tradition of demonizing people, there had never been a movie that had caused such a stir. It was something that had nothing to do with people's simple lives. However, all of a sudden in China, it had become a show of support and mockery for their countrymen. Overseas, it had become the bottom line to defend the movie. This matter had completely surpassed the scope of the movie itself. With such a terrifying wave of public opinion, even Yu Hong, Fong Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang, the initiators, felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They had thought that there would be a backlash, but they had never dreamed that it would be so strong. Even if they stood on the street in Los Angeles and looked up at the sky, they could still feel the invisible pressure that filled the sky and the earth. Yu Hong stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the 15th floor of the Lida building in Wujing City, looking at the cars passing by. He also furrowed his brows. He didn't know what his boss, who was in Los Angeles, would think when he saw what we had done. We messed things up. Will he go crazy? Fong Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang stood in front of the door of Qin Guang's hotel room, pacing back and forth. They didn't even dare to knock on the door, let alone report the situation to Qin Guang. The more explosive the public opinion was, the more frightened they were. However, the ugly daughter-in-law had to meet her parents-in-law. They couldn't hide it for long. Their boss was also writing an article on his computer. He liked to browse Weibo, so how could he not see the situation? Forget it. If he died, then so be it. The two gathered their courage and were about to knock on the door when Qin Guang's door suddenly opened. You two have been hanging around the door for almost 10 minutes, right? Who lost money? Did you find it? Qin Guang rolled his eyes at them. Come in quickly. If you have something to say, just say it. I'm busy here. Lu Xiaoyang and Fong Tianyu anxiously followed him. They were worried that Qin Guang would suddenly slap them in the face. Boss. We are here to report the situation. Qin Guang, who had just sat in front of the computer and took a sip of tea, put down the cup and turned around. All right, let's improve our efficiency. I just want to ask you one thing. Did you complete the things you wrote in the proposal? The two nodded at the same time. Yes. Qin Guang took another sip of water. Since it's all done, what else is there to report? Let's continue with the original plan. Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath. But boss, the situation is getting out of control. Fong Tianyu's scalp hardened. With the determination to die, he said loudly, That's right. We were too impatient for success. Everyone knows our purpose. They also know that this is your first movie. They also know the original position of the movie heroine. The development of the public opinion is completely out of our control. Now, even if we spend $200 million, we can't suppress the negative and criticism, let alone $40 million. Lu Xiaoyang nodded heavily and almost shouted, That's right. Boss. This time you might really have the whole world as your enemy. The whole world as your enemy. Didn't you check Weibo? Qin Guang was stunned for a moment and then he came back to his senses. I just checked the website half an hour ago and I thought you had something new to report. But it turns out to be this lousy matter? Lu Xiaoyang was shocked. Boss, you call this lousy matter? Qin Guang shrugged. Of course. If this isn't lousy matter, then what is? You don't say. My dad just called and scolded me. Fong Tianyu could not help but ask, What did he say? Qin Guang wore a fearful expression as he continued, You've scolded me to the point that I nearly disregarded my son. Lu Xiaoyang said embarrassedly, Uncle Qin must be joking, right? Qin Guang returned to his calm look. That's right. He was joking. Fong Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang looked at each other. What time was it? Boss, why are you still panting while talking? What's wrong with you? Chapter 1066. Boss, what should we do now? Do we need to get more people to use some special methods? Lu Xiaoyang hinted that Qin Guang had some special channels and connections in China. At the very least, Lu Xiaoyang knew that Qin Guang had some connections in China. At the very least, he could stabilize the public opinion in China. Fong, you can't care about the North American box office and the Oscars anymore. He must at least protect the Chinese box office. However, he never expected that Qin Guang would already be sitting before his computer and typing on the keyboard. Nothing much. We'll just follow the original plan and do what needs to be done. Since we have prepared $40 million, we will continue to spend it. It doesn't matter if people scold me or support me. They are giving us free publicity and we don't need to thank them. Feng Yi stopped talking after that. Normally, he wouldn't mind messing around with the two of them, but World School of Performing Arts was a difficult book to write. He understood everything in his head, but he had to write from simple to deep and from deep to simple so that others could understand and learn it. It is not easy for Feng Yu to construct a knowledge system for others to learn and understand. Qin Guang's theory is more than 10 times better than Stanislavski's performing arts system. Feng Yu's time is tight and he must make every sentence in his book concise. He must use the least amount of words to express the deepest meaning. If he wasn't an invincible language master who was proficient in 4,987 languages, he wouldn't have been able to do it. Lu Xiaoyang and Feng Tianyu looked at each other and then at Qin Guang, who is as calm as a Zen monk. They were speechless for a while. Does Feng Yu not know what is going on? Of course Feng Yu knows the tricks of the public. Feng Yu had worked his way up to where he is today because of the controversy of the public opinion. He started by going against his school's vice principal, Su Lijing, and then became an online anchor. After that, Zhou Wei tried to cause trouble for him with 8 magazine. In the end, Qin Guang even got Tianguang management to send legal letters to countless media outlets and marketing accounts. No matter from which angle one looked at it, Qin Guang could be considered as a master of public opinion. He cares about his reputation and is good at reversing the criticism. More often than not, he could see through the situation at a glance. He knew what kind of response and preparation would be the most effective under the circumstances of public opinion. He used to be a person with a good reputation who would easily lose his temper, but why did he become so calm this time? What is Feng Yu thinking? The situation outside is so chaotic, but he's still expressionless and unmoving like a mountain, allowing us to continue advancing according to the existing track? He does not care about the criticism. At this moment of life and death, with the whole world as his enemy, he could still sit here calmly and write his monograph. How big does his heart have to be to do that? The two finally understood why Feng Yu is Feng Yu and why Qin Guang, who looks like a clown, can endure all the pressure and get to where he is today. Because under this clown's appearance, there is a big heart that can contain the whole world. He would never be knocked down. Come to think of it, up until now, everything he had done had always been to set a goal and then carry it out in an extremely thorough and crazy manner. Even if those who stood in his way were often the world's top experts and experts from all walks of life, and even if there were countless people who doubted his ability, he had never doubted or wavered in his own ability. It is the same this time. The two clenched their fists. Damn, following such a boss, we can only accompany him in his craziness. Time flies and in the blink of an eye, it is the 3rd day. After 48 hours of preparation and criticism, Tianguang Group, the supernova that revolves around Qin Guang, did not stop. In fact, it continued to advertise even more intensely. Posters of women sprang up like mushrooms after a spring rain from Los Angeles on the west coast to Miami on the east coast. One after another, TV stations prostrated themselves under the attack of the US dollar and became his mouthpiece. This is the advantage of living in a democratic land. Even if you know that you are risking universal condemnation, as long as you have money, the media will always be able to make a voice that is not in harmony with the general public. The people of Demi are only boycotting Qin Guang. They will not boycott the media that took Qin Guang's money to speak for him. Other than the TV stations, YouTube, who has worked closely with him in the past, unexpectedly chose to stand on his side at this time. YouTube even paid out of its own pocket to do publicity. At the same time, it prepared several channels to play videos of some of the events he has participated in or organized in the past, as well as the most important evidence of his acting skills, the live video of the play Thunderstorm. He had no idea where YouTube managed to find such a treasure. The crazed leader of the livestream industry had actually recreated the video of Qin Guang's massed participation in the Xianxia car gambling competition into an even more exquisite feature documentary. Other than that, this leader of social media also chose to stand on the same side as Qin Guang. Although it did not suppress the voices that boycotted Qin Guang, it was doing the same thing as YouTube, promoting him for free. The greatest racer in the history of mankind. The most perfect fighting machine since the birth of esports. The undisputed master of miniature sculpture. The master of piano performance that can turn back time by reproducing the original sound. The king of darts who used his own strength to completely subvert the darts competition. The incredible master of human linguistics. The great pilot who used his own strength to improve human flying skills by several levels. The winner of the Civil Aviation Hero Medal. These were Qin Guang's achievements that could be compiled into a book. They were even made into feature reports one after another and spread wildly on social media sites for free. Even Feng Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang were confused. Their own publicity budget was not enough to support advertising on these two leaders. The confusion of the two was not solved until they received a call from Tang Xiaokai. At first, the two thought that Tang Xiaokai went to say hello, but Tang Xiaokai denied it. When one's status reached the level of Mark Zuckerberg, the words and actions of these people could not be influenced by simple interpersonal relationships. In Mark Zuckerberg's words, this was roughly the case. Just like what Qin Guang had been doing, the global technology industry had been challenging the limits of human beings and all kinds of impossibilities. Regardless of whether Qin Guang could do it this time, his courage and determination to attack the impossible represented the great will that was enough to promote human progress. He knew that it was impossible and he knew that it was difficult, but he did it. This was crazy and it was great. In the long history of human scientific development, there had been many people like him, just like Bruno and Galileo, who were persecuted many years ago. Qin Guang's behavior today seemed crazy, but it represented the lifelong pursuit of every generation of scientific and technological talents. Never compromise with any doubts, even if they die on the road. Even if he may not be right, we can't let the spirit of human progress be in the cold winter of the world's criticism. We have responsibilities and obligations and we have to follow our hearts, so we choose to support him. What we really support is not his behavior today. We recognize his past achievements and we recognize his current spirit. What we want to defend is not some movie, but the courage of human beings to challenge the impossible. We must always have a different voice and protect everyone's right to make a choice, because only then will our future have infinite possibilities. Although the truth of the matter might not be as great as what Zuckerberg said, maybe they used their artificial intelligence and big data system to analyze Qin Guang's past, and came to a seemingly ridiculous but actually reasonable conclusion. Maybe these technology giants thought that Qin Guang could win this time, so they chose to bet on him. If they could win, even if they could not get substantial economic benefits, the potential benefits could bring them huge benefits and even the friendship of many Chinese people. Just this alone was enough to tempt the tech giants. But no matter what their motives were, the technology giants who could make such a choice at this moment were extremely righteous. It was easy to hit someone when they were down, but it was hard to help someone when they were in need. When Lu Xiaoyang heard Tang Xiaokai trying his best to suppress his emotions and say these words with a trembling voice, he almost burst into tears. Comrade Xiao Lu silently looked at the room next door. The boss had just eaten lunch and he should still be writing at this moment. He thought to himself, how charismatic does our boss have to be able to influence those billionaires in the present age? It's a waste of boss's talent not to be a charlatan. Lu Xiaoyang looked at his watch again. There are still 7 hours until the premiere. Feng Tianyu nodded. The two of them took out another report. After the premiere at 8 p.m. that night, the official screening in the United States would start at 10:30 p.m. Looking at the shocking red crosses and the embarrassing figure of only 0.67%, the two of them who had just been excited felt cold again. In just 2 days, the 2% screening rate that they had negotiated with much difficulty had plummeted. Many cinema chains even had to pay compensation out of their own pockets to forcibly remove women from the shelves. Everything had been prepared too hastily, and the medium-sized distribution company controlled by Tang Jie Foundation had too little say. Many cinema chains had to consider the attitude of all American filmmakers. Even though they knew that it was a breach of contract, they had no choice but to further reduce the screening rate. Although the support of the tech giants had slightly changed the situation of public opinion, and although the tech industry and the film industry were inextricably linked, there was still an inevitable barrier. Their stance could not change the situation of the declining screening rate. Such a big publicity for the movie premiere was held in Hollywood's Wuxia Theater's number 14 screening hall, and the screening rate on the first day was only 0.67%. There was no weirder and more painful movie premiere than this. Feng Tianyu still had a bitter look on his face as he waved the premiere invitation list in his hand. There were big red crosses on it one after another. Feng Tianyu sighed. I've really tried my best. I can't invite anyone from the North American entertainment industry. President Tang has also helped a lot, but it's useless. Everyone who is even a little bit related to the entertainment industry is avoiding us like snakes and scorpions. Lu Xiaoyang took the list and sighed. I feel like I really miss the old foreign professor in San Diego. If it really doesn't work, we can spend some money to find a few experienced international friends to do some makeup and give each of them a suit to make up for the number of people. We should at least make it look more impressive." As he spoke, Qin Guang's voice resounded in his ears. Only the heavens knew how that fellow was capable of listening to their conversation through a wall. "No need. It's fine if there's no one at the premiere. That's the effect I want, the contrast. The uglier and more miserable we look, the better." Lu Xiaoyang and Feng Tianyu looked at each other, not understanding Qin Guang's intentions. "Be reasonable, boss. Aren't we embarrassed like this?" Chapter 1067. With such a low screening rate, a premiere with 0 guests in Screening Hall 14, and a time when humans have yet to break out of Earth and enter outer space, based on the criticism and popularity we're receiving now, we're definitely going to become a laughingstock and a disgrace to outer space. Lu Xiaoyang clicked on another piece of news. To be precise, it was yesterday's old news. The title was "A Premiere Without Guests." I heard that they still want to fight for the Oscars? An Oriental joke from an ancient civilization with 5,000 years of history. The guy who wrote this news was quite vicious and sinister. Unlike others who attacked Qin Guang's acting skills from all aspects, he found a very tricky angle to ridicule and satirize the premiere of Women. This article catered to many people's tastes. Since it was published on the internet, it received a high number of clicks, reposts, and replies. Even some local TV stations specially used this article to talk about it, making this guy earn a lot of royalties in one day. Although this guy called LeBron Antonio was unknown, and he was purely trying to ride on the hot news, he did have some channels to find out a lot of inside information, and he caught hold of Qin Guang and the Tianguang group's weakness. Lu Feng and Lu Xiaoyang sighed. It was already embarrassing enough, and now people were writing about it and ridiculing it. What a scam. They should have brought a team from China, at least Chengdu's boss Li or the two Ma's, and then let Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage bring in some industry stars, such as Brother Long or Master Xing. They were considered heavyweights in the world and they could handle the scene. But it was too late. What should they do now? Find someone by force? The boss of some small company under Tang Shaokai that had a market value of tens of millions? The American soldier who made a living in China? C.I. Shiping, who had some fate with China and was working as a water cooler manager for the Los Angeles Lakers. Or Marbury, who refused to retire from the Yenjing basketball team. Stop messing around. Who knew them? Today's movie will be released on the same day, and the cast members are A-list superstars such as Cameron, Spielberg, Tom Cruise, Lil Lee, Blessed Curls, Moldy, Trembling Woods, Hermione, Eminem, and so on. We might as well not bring this lineup. You might be shameless, but others were. In this situation, even if you offered money, you wouldn't be able to invite them. Most importantly, the premiere is only 7 hours away, and we can't even afford such a shabby lineup. So bitter. In the next room, Qin Guang was not as calm as he appeared. He was so angry that he wanted to chop someone up. But what could he do? Kidnap him? Was he really going to spend money to hire a fake army? The media wasn't stupid. Now that he was full of flaws, it would only be more embarrassing if they found someone to expose him. *CK, how much have you wronged me today? When the old man writes his monograph, when the old man becomes the best actor, how ashamed will you be? I want all of you to feel ashamed of yourselves. However, he was also a little worried. Did he go too far? If he really couldn't force people into the cinema even with a knife, it would be like what Tang Shaokai said about a 3-day cinema tour. He would be in big trouble. So I forget it. I don't want to think about this. I have to have confidence in myself. At most, I'll go to the forum and play the patriotic card. First, I'll trick the Chinese into joining, then I'll get my fellow countrymen to help me with them. He was really quick-witted, coming up with an idea in a flash. Forget it, I'll just continue writing my novel. Time passed in the blink of an eye. No matter how painful Feng Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang were, they still had to leave 6 hours earlier. Although the Tianguang group team in Los Angeles had more than 60 people, the two idiots were still the ones in charge. They wouldn't feel at ease if they didn't see some key points with their own eyes. After leaving, the two of them went their separate ways. Lu Xiaoyang went to the Hollywood Wuxia Theater, while Feng Tianyu went to the Tianguang group's temporary office in Los Angeles. It was an office building that Tang Shaokai had just rented yesterday. It was about a 10-minute walk from the Flemington Hotel. At this time, the office building was filled with dozens of people. People came and went, and it was very busy. There were only people in the office and the desks were empty. The employees of the Tianguang group really didn't have time to prepare desktop computers. Fortunately, most of the elites who came here had brought their own laptops. If they didn't, the boss was rich. The laptops were a little short and small, so the desk looked empty, but it didn't affect their work efficiency. Get in touch with YouTube and follow up on their public opinion data. If they need information to support it, get the headquarters to organize the documents and send them over immediately. All the information must be categorized and the items must be clear. D***, this is obviously Dog 3's job, but I'm the one doing it. Xiaozhong. Call Valiant Company. The top right corner of the billboard in Times Square has been flashing non-stop. It's blinding. Xiaozhong, have you contacted the publisher and the printing company? The boss will bring out the book the day after tomorrow. We want to create a global publishing miracle. The boss will publish the book in the morning, and we will send the fragrant book to every newsstand in the US in the afternoon. Before dawn in China, we want all the Xinhua bookstores to be filled with the boss's books. We want Amazon, Jingxi, Taobao, and all the big internet celebrities on Weibo to sell the boss's books. Remember, the price in China is $39.9 and the same in Europe and the US. Not 1 cent more, not 1 cent less. Xiaozhong, Manager Fong, we will lose money this way. Fong Tianyu, if we lose money, so be it. The boss said that the main goal of the first printing is to maximize sales. As long as the losses are within the company's bearable range, there won't be a problem. If we make money, he will only ask me for it. Xiaozhong, what about proofreading and refinement? Will the boss just print it after he writes it? Fong Tianyu grunted. You're finished. You're questioning the ability of the world's #1 language master. Will the boss make a typo? Impossible. Even if he's wrong, he's still right. Have you heard of Lu Xun's story? Do you want me to tell you about it? Xiao Hu, immediately contact all the major cinema chains that have decided not to go back on their word. I just talked to President Tang's distribution company. We will continue to reduce the film's commission by 10% and give the cinema chains 80% of the box office commission. Damn, I don't believe they won't be tempted. Every cinema will subsidize $5,000 for publicity and let them make their own posters. The screening rate is 0.67%. Tell them that for every additional screening, our distribution company will reward them with $1,000. Xiao Zhou, contact the ticketing company and ask for special tickets. Group tickets. Discounted tickets. The average ticket price in the US cannot exceed $4.50. Give out popcorn as soon as you enter. 3 days later there will be a big gift pack. $39.9 for the big gift pack. The movie tickets and the boss's book will be bundled together. Wait, the big gift pack will only cost $29.9. Qin Guang had gone crazy. Fong Tianyu had also gone crazy. He was dead set on the financial budget given by Su Li. He was going to spend every cent of the Tianguang Group's money, and he was going to spend it wisely. After the initial publicity, the focus of the work had shifted to increasing the screening rate and attendance rate as the top priority. As for how to change the reputation of the movie and the boss's image after he got them in, this was beyond the scope of his ability. It was not something he could manage. Whether a work was good or not, the internet water army and public opinion could play a role. But in the end, the boss had to be as awesome as he said. But as the boss had said, it was not a problem that he needed to worry about or consider. As the boss's right-hand man, he only needed to carry out the boss's will. Anyway, he would do his best and leave it to fate. Bundling the boss's book with the movie tickets was a genius idea that Fong Tianyu had suddenly come up with. Oh, one more question. What about the premiere? Thinking of this, poor old Fong sighed again. Buttface should be about to explode. He had also tried his best. He had even inquired about the interpersonal relationships that he had built up after working in the United States for so many years. But he could not get anyone to come. I tried my best, but I couldn't do it. Forget it. Anyway, the boss has already given up. We're not Superman. We can't do anything about it. Fong Tianyu's guess was right. At this time, Lu Xiaoyang was standing in the huge square outside the Wuxia Theater in Hollywood. He had a feeling that the wind was howling and the water was cold. Manager Fong, the venue I arranged for you is not bad, right? But aren't your posters and banners a little too shabby? You can't even fill 1/3 of the venue. This empty space reminds me of the layout of your cities when I traveled to Wuxia 20 years ago. Also, what is this narrow red carpet? Is it a footcloth? Zhou Xian, who was supposed to be extremely busy today, ran over to Lu Xiaoyang's side and teased him with great interest. As the manager of the Wuxia Theater for many years, he would not make himself work so hard. Although the Wuxia Theater had to hold the premiere of at least 8 movies at the same time, Donald did not need to worry about everything. The theater company had a complete staff structure and there were people who could help him. As the general manager, Donald only needed to deal with some core affairs, such as wrangling with Tang Xiaokai in the office. Of course, that also included him running over to Lu Xiaoyang's side to add insult to injury. Although work was important, maintaining a happy mood was more important. The premiere of Women is also part of the Wuxia Theater's business. Now that I'm here, I can show my professionalism. Lu Xiaoyang's face was livid. Mr. Zhou Xian, this is not what we agreed on. The venue is a little too big. Also, Mr. Zhou Xian, my surname is Lu. I am not Manager Fong. Donald's expression did not change. Oh, I'm sorry. In my eyes, you Wuxia people all look a little similar. Also, doesn't your company like a bigger venue? Since your company's boss, Qin Guang, wants to win an Oscar, you can't just want a small corner, right? People will think that you are a troupe from China. I heard from a friend that there is a Chinese idiom to describe this kind of people. Called grassroots troupe, right? One had to admit that Donald's Chinese pronunciation was very good, and his pronunciation was very accurate. Obviously, he had expected Qin Guang's people to question him, so he had practiced his lines on purpose. He had prepared his lines in advance to add insult to injury. Lu Xiaoyang was about to explode. Damn it. If it wasn't for the fact that you have a high status in the North American film industry, I would have slapped your face. Damn it, you are the grassroots troupe. Your whole family is a grassroots troupe. Chapter 1068. But Lu Xiaoyang tolerated it. He pinched his nose and replied in a muffled voice. If he did not pinch his nose, he was worried that he would have to use his fists to serve the other party. Then I would like to thank you on behalf of Mr. Qin. Donald smiled insincerely. Manager Fong, you're too kind. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. I wish you a great premiere. There will be a lot of media reporters here today. Although your movie has a terrible image in the media right now, I will be happy to invite the media reporters over to take a look, take some photos, write some articles and publish some news. This should be able to satisfy your company's Mr. Chen's requirements and give you a better influence. Donald left immediately after he finished speaking. He could tell that Lu Xiaoyang was about to explode. Although the one who would suffer would be that annoying Qin Guang if he were to be beaten up, but I'm an old man. There's no need for me to suffer with a young man. That would be bad for my health. After Donald left, Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath for 30 seconds to calm down. He knew that the other party was here to disgust him, and he knew that he had fallen into the old man's trap. But even though he knew that it was a trap, he could not help but jump in. Lu Xiaoyang sighed. Compared to his boss, who would remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, he was worlds apart. Forget it, the boss is right. I'll make a grand entrance no matter how much land you give me. Don't you want to see us make a fool of ourselves? We'll let you see as much as you want today. When the boss's movie is released, all of you will be convinced by the beating. How arrogant you are today will be how embarrassing you will be when the time comes. *CK, my surname is not Fong. Xiaoqing, come here. Contact the printing company and convention company. Change the red carpet immediately. Change the stage. Change the posters. Change all of them. We'll occupy as much land as he gives us. Manager Lu, is this really okay? We don't have any guests. Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath and imitated Qin Guang's tone. Xiaoqing, you're still young. You don't understand the boss's realm. Don't be happy with external things, don't be sad about yourself. No matter what happens outside, I will stand firm. If you always care about other people's gazes and gossips, then you can only become a mortal. Look at our President Qin. How did he achieve so much at such a young age? Little Qin, life is a science. You really have to learn slowly. You're still young. After saying that, Lu Xiaoyang walked away with his hands clasped behind his back like an expert. Little Qin stood there and thought for a long time. Isn't CO Qin only 21 years old? Also, I calculated with my fingers. It's true that Chief Qin is capable, but according to Manager Lu's theory, That boss's greatest achievement is that he is thick-skinned and isn't afraid of being scolded, right? Lu Xiaoyang's calmness and good mood did not last long. Not long after Dawn had left, William Jones, who had met Chen Guang once before, came over with a large group of friends. These European and American celebrities had come to attend the movie premieres of The Sunshine Man and July in Florence. Although they knew that the recently popular Women was also here, they had originally planned to stay far away from them to draw a clear line between them and the movie. However, after listening to William Jones's suggestion, they immediately changed their minds and came here to see what was going on. Behind this group of people, there was a large group of reporters with their cameras and cannons. Yo, this is the premiere of a Chinese blockbuster that has a screening rate of 0.67% in the United States. That's amazing. What a big stage. Yo, it's the premiere of Hall 14. Looks like a blockbuster. Ha, this reminds me of Anderson's Call. What? The Emperor's new costume. I have a question. Did you guys hear who's going to attend their premiere? I know someone from the New York Yankees will be coming. Who? A lawn mower for the New York Yankees, but I don't know his name. Ah. My friends from the media, hurry up and take pictures of this magical scene. The Chinese really care more about their reputation than we thought. I'm really worried that they won't be able to earn back the money they spent on the premiere. That's impossible. I heard that they paid UBC $1 million for the advertisement. Lu Xiaoyang kept reminding himself, I'll endure. I'll endure. I'll continue to endure. I'll continue to endure. I'm Ninja Sen Go. When these people finally leave, who knows how many pictures those reporters will take. I can easily guess what kind of news will appear on the internet. Forget it, it doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, the premiere will be over in another 3 or 4 hours. Our premiere will probably last about 10 minutes. After a while, another group of celebrities arrived. This time they were led by an Oscar-winning director. Again, I'm being trampled on again. They even put pot ashes in my eyes. Lu Xiaoyang couldn't stand it anymore. He decisively turned around and ran away. He told little Qin that if anything happened he could report to him at any time. He could just hide in the cafe next to the square and watch. He couldn't control them, but he was also angry. So he decisively decided not to see them. President Chen, when are you coming? Come and save me. Time passed by quickly. 1 hour. 2 hours later, the venue of the world premiere of Women was quickly renovated by the super-efficient operation of the US dollar. The exhibition lighting layout was more gorgeous, and the poster array was more exquisite and large. The spacious pure wool red carpet could even be ridden by horses. Everything looked so gorgeous. Except for Comrade Xiao Lu's increasingly short guest list, it was really flawless. That's right. Originally, there were a few friends in the circle that Big Beard Deng had put in a lot of effort to get. At least they had some weight and people would have some impression of their names. But in these few hours, these people might have been persuaded by others, or they might have been scared away by the negative news that had just been continuously updated on social networks and the media. Until now, they had sent messages one after another, either saying that they had a stomachache or something happened at home. In short, one after another they said that they couldn't come. What was even more miserable was that in these 2 to 3 hours, other premieres had started one after another. They were really brilliant and strong. Even if it was a pure literary film with an investment of less than $10 million, there were also big names in the industry who came to support them for free. Among them, there was even a bastard who had just stood Lu Xiaoyang up and said that he had his appendix removed in the hospital. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Almost every time after the red carpet part of the press conference, the reporters who were free for a short time would go to the booth of Women, which was beautifully decorated, but only had a few staff members to take pictures of the cold wind. Lu Xiaoyang, who was hiding in the cafe, saw this scene. He knew that the titles of these beasts tonight would generally be like this. XX movie conference stars shine, China's women is deserted. On the day of the XX movie premiere, XXX Superstar said that he had watched the test screening, and the reviews were overwhelming. The movie is scheduled to be nominated for an Oscar. Next door, Women said that I'm here for the golden plums. The foreigners might not have used such a lofty idiom as deserted, and would generally change it to something else, but the meaning should be more or less the same. You animals, I can tolerate it if only 1 or 2 families do this, but if all of them do this, it's too much. He looked down at the calendar in his hand and his face became even more ashen. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the three movies, Women, The Sunshine Man and July in Florence, would hold their premieres at the same time. The movie, The Sunshine Man, told the story of a white man who was born in a black area, and the difficulties and struggles he felt since he was young, especially after he became an adult. The movie cut into the story from a very tricky and novel angle, reflecting the color barrier in the current era, and finally expressed the concept of eliminating discrimination and pursuing coexistence. It was very much in line with the mainstream ideology of the United States led by Comrade Guanhai in recent years. July in Florence was not easy to deal with either. The story took place in Florence during the Renaissance, but it was not about familiar names like Michelangelo, Raphael or Leonardo da Vinci. July in Florence told the story of the European customs and cultural environment of this special period from the perspective of an aspiring but unknown artist at that time. Under the director's meticulous craftsmanship, the film was beautifully produced. It started from a small point of view and the story was intertwined. The final ending was huge and it could be said to be the best Renaissance historical film in the 21st century. Apart from Women, The Sunshine Man and July in Florence were the hot favorites for this year's Oscar. They did not even need any other publicity, and they had already been nominated for several awards. In particular, William Jones and Ben Affleck, the two male leads in the movie, were almost the two most popular nominees for the Oscar this year. Although the other nominees were also veterans in the industry with good reputations and acting skills, due to the limitations of the theme and structure of the movie itself, they were a lot less imposing than these two. The other actors had even become the tag-along party. However, this was not the problem that Zhou Xian cared about the most at that moment. He only thought about what happened to his boss tonight and his heart ached for him and himself. It's hard to say if we'll be the tag-along party at the Oscars, but we've already been the tag-along party at the premiere. Our booth is bigger than everyone else's combined, but when the other side is bustling with noise, our booth is completely silent. How miserable is that? Who says that international friends are gentle and refined? Who says that international friends are polite and of high quality? These bastards drive to hit people when they're down, and the foreign media's ability to tear people's scars and spit on people's faces, they're all very cunning. While Zhou Xian was letting his imagination run wild, a person suddenly sat down next to him. He turned his head and saw Qin Guang open his Apple computer and snap his fingers at the waiter. "Vetries, give me a caramel latte and 3 grams of oil." "Boss, why are you here?" Zhou Xiaoyang forced himself to focus and asked. Chapter 1069. Flipping open his laptop, Qin Guang continued, "I'm almost done with the first half of the World School of Performing Arts. I originally intended to finish the entire book by today, but it looks like I'm a little late. But it doesn't matter. I'll split it into 2 volumes. Wait for another half an hour and I'll give you the electronic version of the first volume. Contact Fong Tianyu and try to get a hardcover copy of the first volume before the premiere tonight. When the time comes, anyone who's willing to attend our premiere, whether they're people from the media or people in the entertainment industry, even if they're able-bodied men who just happen to pass by, we'll give them a copy. But we don't have a serial number for our printed publications. It's illegal, isn't it?" Zhou Xiaoyang's eyes lit up. He thought Qin Guang's idea was great, but it was a bit inappropriate. Qin Guang said indifferently, "It doesn't matter. We're giving it away for free. We won't make any profit at all. It's just like how people give away collections of theses when they attend academic conferences. It's just a printed product at our own expense. It doesn't violate any laws in the USA. Remember, buttface, tonight when the most embarrassing premiere in history begins, it will be the time for us to blow the horn of our counterattack. To maximize the influence of the premiere, we have to do whatever it takes." "Yes, boss." Zhou Xiaoyang stood up and walked out quickly. Just a moment ago he was still feeling dejected, but Qin Guang's words had ignited his fighting spirit. With a smile, Qin Guang lowered his head to write the last paragraph of the first volume. A few minutes later, when he had just pressed the send button, a blonde waitress came with a cup of coffee. "So your coffee is here. Please enjoy." Qin Guang looked up and smiled. "Freundlinger." That was the German pronunciation of "thank you." The waitress was surprised. "Sir, how do you know I'm German?" Qin Guang blinked. Your English has a little northern Bavarian accent. If I'm not wrong, you grew up in Nuremberg. The waitress was shocked. Sir, you're amazing. Qin Guang waved his hand calmly. It's nothing. If you knew my name, you wouldn't be surprised at all. The waitress thought about it for a long time. Although she worked in the heart of the entertainment industry, she was so busy every day that her feet did not touch the ground. As a German, she was not interested in the gossip in the entertainment industry. She did not know Qin Guang's name. But now, Qin Guang's words had piqued her endless curiosity. Sir, although I really don't know you, may I have your number? I admire your erudition. Qin Guang looked up at her. It may not be a good thing for you to exchange contact information with me. If you really want to be my friend, you can take your friend to the Hollywood Wuxia Theater across the square to watch the premiere of a movie from China. Women. It's free. The waitress was stunned. She finally matched Qin Guang's image in her mind with the news that she had seen while chatting with her colleagues last night. Her jaw dropped. Oh my God, you are, Qin Guang shushed her. Don't call my name out loud or your boss will kick me out. I don't want to carry my laptop around everywhere. The waitress took a while to calm down. I'll get back to work then? Well, okay. Thank you. Your coffee is great. Qin Guang took out a $50 tip from his pocket and put it in the waitress's hand. Thank you for your service. The waitress blushed slightly, but after a short hesitation she still took it. She turned around and took 2 steps, then stopped and turned back. Mr. Qin, my friend is the head of the community service organization here. I will ask her to bring her friends to watch a movie tonight. You are completely different from the rumors. You are knowledgeable, humble, and polite. Qin Guang nodded slightly. You flatter me. The waitress suddenly blushed under his gaze. I know you will be very busy during this period, but if it's possible, I really want to leave your contact information. I also know that you seem to have a girlfriend in China, but I don't care about that. Hearing this, Qin Guang's heart trembled. This was practically asking him out in the open. Thank you for your kindness, but we Chinese are very particular about fate. Fate means that there are 7 billion people in this world, and every time they meet and have a conversation, it's actually made up of countless miraculous coincidences. However, to truly turn this coincidental fate into an inevitable friendship, it might take a little more time to settle and a second fate. Not only was the waitress not annoyed by his rejection, but the light in her eyes became brighter. I understand, Mr. Qin. She did not have any unhappiness when she failed to ask him out. Instead, she left with a heart full of joy. Qin Guang shook his head slightly. No way. Handsome people are just that confident. After sending the email, he stretched his back. He was not physically tired, but he wanted to rest. There were still 2 days before the next volume, and he just needed to get it out in time the day after tomorrow. He wrote the first volume more slowly. On the one hand, the content of the first volume was similar to the general outline, and there were some more general conceptual things in it. On the other hand, this was the first time he had written such a high-intensity book continuously, and the difficulty was greater than when he taught people how to fly a plane or write language textbooks. Now that he had a little bit of knowledge, he was more familiar with the second volume, and the things he wrote were not so superficial but more detailed and practical skills, so he wrote faster. He opened the document again and roughly counted the number of words. It was incredible that he had written a full 200,000 words in less than 3 days. If it were not for the old man's profound skills and invincible body, he would not have been able to hold on. Sitting here alone was also boring, so he opened Weibo and the news media website to browse casually. Thanks to the human nature of the big data system in the information age, he had been looking for news related to himself recently, and almost all the news that was pushed to him were related to him. Forget it, there was no need to repeat those shocking headlines. Saying too much would make him cry. Regardless of whether it was Chinese, English, German, or French, as far as the eye could see, most of them were scolding him. Qin Guang searched for a long time, and finally found an article on the domestic news media website that spoke up for him. A young man who knew what was good for him had organized the special topics created by technology giants such as YouTube into a report, which could be considered as speaking up for him. However, the comment section below was still tragic, and his own fans and haters who did not like him were in a heated argument. Qin Guang roughly scanned through and estimated the ratio of the two sides in his heart. He was quite impressed with himself. In China, these two types of people actually accounted for half of the country. This ratio was very accurate, and the margin of error was less than 1%. This meant that about half of the people in the country who knew him supported him and the other half opposed him. It was as if he was in the world of the internet at the junction of ice and fire, representing the two levels of the world. If one could be like this, even if he was not a hero, he would be an ambitious person. Thinking about it, he was quite proud. The situation overseas was worse. There was no way to see it. There was really no way to see it. The language of the international friends was quite vicious. If it was someone who did not understand foreign slang, he would not be so angry, but he understood it all. Qin Guang. He was looking through the news when he suddenly heard a foreigner's very non-standard Chinese pronunciation, and he recognized it. Qin Guang turned his head to look to his side. The person who was talking to him was a blonde, handsome guy. He did not look old, but according to Qin Guang's understanding, he should be around 30 years old. He did not know where this man came from, but he should be very famous. After all, many people in the cafe had their eyes on him, and at the same time they were whispering endlessly. His eyes were very sharp like an eagle's, and he was also quite tall, about 188 meters. At this moment he was standing beside him and looking down, giving off a feeling of superiority. This guy seemed to be a big shot after being scolded so many times on the internet. Qin Guang did not need to guess to know why he was here. It's me, and then? What can I do for you? The blond man's lips curled up slightly, and there was an extremely disdainful smile on his face. My name is Ben Afflet. It seems like you don't know me? Qin Guang turned his face back to the computer, not even looking at him. I don't know many foreigners, of course not including you. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. I don't like to be disturbed. Ben's expression changed slightly. He did not expect this guy to really not recognize him. He was about to say something. But Qin Guang spoke again. Oh, I remember. I just saw your information not long ago. You're the male lead of Lungsue's August, right? Ben Afflet's breathing became slightly heavier. It's July in Florence. Friend, your pronunciation is too bad. By the way, your movie doesn't have an English dub, right? Is it a subtitled version? Ben was right. Originally, women would have a dub, but before Big Beard Deng could record it, Qin Guang had already screened it in the United States. A Chinese movie without an English dub and still trying to get an Oscar, Qin Guang was indeed unprecedented. What does this have to do with you? Don't you understand what I'm saying? Qin Guang tilted his head slightly and looked at him coldly. He did not care how famous this guy was. Anyway, he had already offended all the filmmakers. It was no big deal to catch one and make it worse. Moreover, this guy was like William Jones the other day, a direct competitor of his. Qin Guang pretended to be confused, but his mind was as clear as snow. Of course it has something to do with me. Are you here to be a clown? The thought of someone like you trying to get an Oscar makes me feel sick and nauseous. You've made Los Angeles a mess. Why don't you be smart and leave here early, take you and your R&B and get lost? That way you can at least look like a decent person. Otherwise, Qin Guang took a deep breath and narrowed his eyes. His expression changed. I'm sorry, I don't care what you scold me, but I can't stand being threatened. Chapter 1070. Ben Afflet's tone suddenly paused. As a top actor in the world, he had just called Qin Guang a clown. But in that instant, Qin Guang's gaze reminded him of another clown character. It was Heath Ledger's role as the Joker in Batman, The Dark Knight, one of the most iconic villains in the history of movies. Qin Guang's eyes were empty with madness, calm but filled with bloodthirsty murderous intent. Otherwise, I will personally take a photo of you tonight and post it on my social media account. Ben Afflet didn't know what was wrong with him. He wanted to say that he was going to beat him up, but the words came out like this. He really didn't want to admit that he had fallen into the fear of facing Satan because of a look from the other party. Qin Guang smiled. Then I really have to thank you. Remember to make me look more handsome, or I will sue you for violating my portrait rights. Get lost, see you at the Oscars. Ben Afflet was a world-renowned superstar, and he had never been treated like this before. He blushed and wanted to get angry subconsciously, but he was intimidated by Qin Guang's look just now. He looked back dejectedly and then turned away with a livid face. Seeing that Ben had been humiliated, the others in the cafe gathered together and whispered. Most of them were complaining about Ben's injustice, thinking that Qin Guang lacked manners. Qin Guang's ears were sharp and he curled his lips in disdain. He had been scolded so many times that he was completely numb. Who cares? A little anger just now had some benefits. At least the cafe owner who had recognized him didn't dare to drive him away. An hour later, Qin Guang returned to the hotel and changed into a suit and tie. He combed his beautiful hair like a waterfall, and after being carefully dressed by a top makeup artist hired by Lu Xiaoyang, he finally stood on the grand stage of the world premiere of Women. At this time the lights behind him were bright and the red carpet was dazzling. The edge of the giant poster behind him flashed with neon LED colors. The large LED countdown sign above his head showed that it was exactly 7:40 LE time. Nearly 60 employees of the Tianguang Group in Los Angeles also stood on the red carpet all the way to his side. Everything looked so luxurious. Apart from the fact that it looked cold and shabby compared to the other two premieres, there was nothing wrong with it. Although the venue was not as big as the one for women, it was still brightly lit. However, the exhibition's decorations and appearance were all secondary. When it came to holding a press conference or a premiere, it was all about the people. It was better to have an international superstar standing there than to have thousands of primary school students wave flags and shout battle cries. It was the same as in China, or even crazier. The European and American celebrities were standing there, waving their hands and nodding their heads. This was living popularity. For example, the former king of pop Jackson had countless fans all over the world. Wherever he went, as long as he was willing to appear in public, even in a remote mountain village, he would be tainted with his nobility. Any reporter or photography enthusiast could take a picture. As long as Jackson was in the picture frame, even if the house behind him was made of mud, he could still be on the cover of a fashion magazine without losing his reputation. Pop superstars had such influence, just like Watson, William Jones, Ben Affleck, Mars and Stone, who were smiling and waving their hands casually on the red carpets of the two opposite companies, could make the crowd scream crazily. Any one of them in the crowd could make everyone on Qin Guang's side feel suffocated. No matter how calm you looked, others would think that you were stubborn and that it was useless. They probably wouldn't even have to wait until tomorrow morning. Now the reporters and onlookers would rush over to take pictures or videos from time to time after they finished taking pictures and post the obvious contrast of the press conference on the internet. Qin Guang could imagine the headlines of these people. F***ck. Not a single person came. Qin Guang cursed. Buttface, go find some dogs. I want poodles. Lu Xiaoyang and Fong Tianyu were speechless. Boss, where's your calmness? Were they eaten by dogs? Or are you going to let the dogs eat them? Fong Tianyu said, Boss, isn't that a bit inappropriate? Lu Xiaoyang also tried to persuade him. Boss, it's settled. It's settled. Qin Guang waved his hand in boredom. Forget it. I tricked some people into coming, but it seems that they didn't come. Let's wait for another 5 minutes and then we'll go back to the cinema. Cancel all the speeches we prepared. By the way, have you finished printing the first volume of World School? Lu Xiaoyang nodded. It's done. Let's take a look. Qin Guang took the still warm first volume of World School of Performing Arts from Lu Xiaoyang. He flipped through it casually and was quite satisfied. Previously he was worried that things would be too hasty, so he could only get a printed bound book with extremely simple packaging. But now, the book in his hand was beautifully packaged with a plastic cover, and the artistic font of the title looked very classy. He opened it gently. The paper was thick and had a soft yellow color. The English words printed inside were clear and spaced reasonably. At first glance, this hastily written book of World School of Performing Arts was as exquisite as a work of art. Of course, what satisfied Qin Guang most was the cover of the book. As expected of the roundworm in his stomach, Buttface really had a good eye for judgment. Qin Guang looked at his big face on the cover. So handsome. Well photoshopped. Ooh. With my natural beauty, with my handsome face that looks like Pan An's, do I still need Photoshop? I don't need it. Placing the book back in Lu Xiaoyang's hands, Qin Guang replied, Well done. Later, get a pretty lady to stand at the entrance of the theater and give it to everyone that enters. Make sure to make it clear that this is the first half of my performing arts monograph that we've been promoting. Lu Xiaoyang nodded silently. He didn't know whether he should say it or not. President Chen, in my opinion, the hundreds of books we printed today can only be used for the bonfire party tonight. Alas. It's beautiful, but we need it urgently. The cost is $33.7 per book. It's really painful for me to give them away like this. Lu Xiaoyang changed the way he said it. Qin Guang patted his shoulder calmly. It doesn't matter. I don't think we can give any of them away. Damn, Mr. Qin, you know your place pretty well. Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu rolled their eyes at the same time. At this moment, the red carpet ceremony outside the premiere of The Sunshine Man had just come to an end. The director and the main creator, William Jones, were standing on the stage to give a speech. They were about to lead their friends in the industry as well as the heavyweights from the media who had obtained the tickets to the premiere, to the #1 theater. In the blink of an eye, a large group of reporters and onlookers turned around and headed towards women. Further away, the despicable and shameless William Jones and the others did not turn around and head inside immediately. Instead, they took out binoculars out of nowhere and looked at women with great interest. Qin Guang's expression didn't change. He adjusted his expression and flicked his hair, putting on a calm smile on his face. They're coming to take pictures of me. Make them look more handsome. Qin Guang seemed to be talking to himself, but it also seemed like he was talking to Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu. Lu Xiaoyang, Fang Tianyu, and the other employees of Tianguang Group turned around and looked at his side profile. They didn't know why, but they felt a sense of desolation from his faint smile. When a tiger falls to the plains, it gets bullied by dogs. When a dragon swims in shallow waters, it gets swallowed by shrimps. The heroic President Qin was actually going to suffer such humiliation in a foreign country. Damn it. However, under such circumstances, he was still able to smile at them. This showed just how extraordinary President Qin was. If it was someone else, they would probably have run away and cried somewhere. All the employees of Tianguang Group looked at Qin Guang with an indescribable look in their eyes. Worship. No one knew what Qin Guang was thinking. To be honest, the old man was actually panicking. It didn't matter how much people mocked him. But based on the current trend, were they going to perform a reverse miracle of zero box office sales in North America? This wasn't good. Although he was 100% confident in his acting skills, he knew that once someone walked into the cinema and came out, even without the cooperation of a monograph, there was a high chance that they would become his tap water. This was also where his confidence came from. Before him, no one in the film industry had ever dared to say such things to him. Even old films that were now regarded as classics could not be praised by everyone when they were released. Just like the 4 great classical novels of today, the cultural dregs of the past, they were also created in controversy. Movies were, after all, a matter of opinion. Now, although Qin Guang was confident, he couldn't handle the fact that no one would watch it. No one would enter the cinema and no one would see his acting skills. His amazing talent was completely covered in dust, and his meticulously prepared monograph that would shock 7 billion people couldn't be presented. This meant that he couldn't get any support from the tap water. It was like the world's #1 ballet dancer dancing on an empty stage. No matter how well she danced, she wouldn't be able to get a single applause. What was worse was that when the box office statistics came out the next day, it would either be 0 or there would only be a few people watching. What should he do then? The box office statistics were just that tragic. Even if he hired a water army or bribed film critics to praise him online, it wouldn't be able to move him. The reviews posted online by your film critics were more than your total box office. Who are you kidding? There was something that Qin Guang didn't say. He had just glanced at the box office for the premiere and he hadn't seen wrongly. It was 0. Looking at the queue at the ticket office, everyone was the same. The ticket office was empty without a single person. However, the tickets for the premieres of Sunshine and July had long been snatched up by the major media outlets. No one was queuing because there were no tickets to sell. But for women, no one was buying tickets. At that moment, Qin Guang was extremely annoyed by the deep malice of his international friends. If he had known, he would have spent money to hire more people to watch it. Otherwise, he would have shouted a few times among the Chinese people. The old man had slightly underestimated the indifference of his international friends. Qin Guang really didn't want to admit that he had made a mistake. But now that things had come to this, it was too late for him to make up for it on the spot. Forget it, if the premiere collapsed, then so be it. Tomorrow I'll obediently admit defeat. I'll spend money to hire people to go to the cinema, but I still have to keep up with the publicity. Today I've embarrassed myself. Tomorrow, even if the whole world knows that I'm shameless, I can only brag even more shamelessly. Anyway, the controversy was already big enough, so I might as well make it bigger. It was so big that people would have doubts in their minds, so that people would think in their hearts, why am I, Qin Guang, so arrogant? Let these people enter the cinema with the intention of criticizing. No matter what, they had no right to speak if they hadn't seen it for themselves. If these North American people wanted to scold with more layers, depth, and persuasiveness, they still had to go to the cinema. Chapter 1071. Qin Guang knew that no matter how unhappy those who disliked him were, they would walk into the cinema sooner or later. But they would not be satisfied with just attacking him as a person. The most likely target was still the movie. Qin Guang wanted to become an actor recognized by the world. If those people wanted to destroy his unrealistic dream, the best way was to attack his work. They would also think, I'm just going into the cinema alone, I won't be able to contribute much to the box office, so it doesn't matter if I go and watch. More and more people would walk into the cinema with this kind of thinking, which was actually a standard negative marketing idea. But these people who walked into the cinema with a nitpicking attitude would fall into Qin Guang's trap. If he really sat in the cinema for 2 hours, when he walked out his mentality would change. That was Qin Guang's original plan, but he did not expect that he would go too far. The voices of resistance would be too loud, and the ideology would be too concentrated, resulting in such an awkward scene at the premiere. The premiere was like this, and he estimated that the other cinemas, which had a pitiful 0.67% screening rate, would not be much better. Forget it. Although this would indeed affect the subsequent development of the entire plan, it was like a spring. The more aggrieved and miserable it was today, the more violent the rebound would be when it hit the bottom. Qin Guang forced himself to comfort himself. While his mind was running wild, the reporter from The Sunshine Man finally rushed over after finishing his interview. After all, Qin Guang was notorious. The less courageous reporters picked up their cameras and pointed them at the platform of women from afar. The more courageous reporters, who wanted to dig out more in-depth information, rushed directly to the bottom of the stage, raised their microphones at Qin Guang from afar and shouted loudly, "Mr. Qin from China, are you satisfied with your grand premiere? Mr. Qin, where did you find this red carpet? It's so beautiful, it's even more spacious than the Los Angeles Lakers court. Do you still think you can win the Oscar for Best Actor? We really want to know what kind of confidence you have that gives you the courage to say such a thing. Mr. Qin, although the American people have always been known for their tolerance, don't you think you're being a little too arrogant? How do you feel right now, facing such a comical premiere? Mr. Qin, we heard that you are going to publish a book related to performing arts. We really want to know where you learned performing arts. Your Yanjing Film Academy? Or the Central Academy of Drama? Or is it like what is written in your Chinese martial arts novels, where you learn from a white-bearded old man who lives in seclusion in the mountains? When these reporters asked such questions, they did not expect Qin Guang to answer at all. They did not follow the order of a normal reporter's interview. Instead, they asked him one after another like a barrage of cannons. It looked like an interview, but it was actually crazy sarcasm. Halfway through their noisy questioning, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. What a joke. This has completely overturned my impression of the Chinese. That's right. Fang Tianyu's face was livid. If Lu Xiaoyang had not held him back, he would have rushed up to beat them up. Fang Tianyu turned around and glared at Lu Xiaoyang. "Seed, aren't you angry?" Lu Xiaoyang shrugged and quietly took out a cotton ball from his ear. I didn't even hear what they were saying. The two of them looked at Qin Guang, who was facing everyone's criticism. At that moment, even in the face of thousands of mockery, his expression did not change. He looked at the group of clowns in the audience with a smile. He even raised his hand and pressed it down. You have too many questions, so I won't answer them one by one. I will only say one thing. If you are just standing outside the theater and scolding me, then I will pretend that I didn't hear anything. If you really hate me so much, then go to the cinema and watch my movie first. Then you can come and scold my movie and my people. This is much more interesting than scratching an itch like you guys are doing now. Also, I know you don't want to contribute to the box office. It's okay. I will personally announce that all the tickets for women at the Wuxia Theater in Hollywood are free. I will buy out all the tickets for you. How about that? The reporters had never encountered such an unruly person who laughed at them, so they looked at each other in dismay. Don't expect us to watch your lousy movie even if you pay for it. That's right. Let's go, clowns. Humph. The reporters saw that Qin Guang was immune to their mockery and felt a little bored. They cursed and turned around to leave. Lu Xiaoyang and Feng Tianyu were stunned by Qin Guang's generosity. He was indeed the boss. He was so strong. The two of them moved closer to Qin Guang and touched his shoulder. Boss, how did you hold back? Qin Guang said, Huh? What did you say? He picked his ear as he spoke. Lu Xiaoyang and Feng Tianyu were confused. Boss, didn't you hear anything? Did you put something in your ear? Qin Guang smiled mysteriously. You guys are so naive. I told you I'm a martial arts master. I used my internal energy to block my hearing just now. I couldn't even hear thunder. The two of them, impressive. Really impressive. William Jones, who was watching from a distance, had a smug smile on his face. William, we should go in. Stop watching this clown's performance. It's a waste of time. No. Sharon, this is interesting. It's even more interesting than me winning the Best Actor award in Berlin. I don't want to agree with you, but it's really interesting. Don't you think he's too pitiful? Emma, if he gets what he wants, we'll be the pitiful ones. He reminds me of Don Quixote by Cervantes. William Jones said, No, Emma, he's just as funny as Don Quixote, but he's not as great as Don Quixote. You look, Mr. Zhou Xian is going over. While the few of them were chattering, Donald Zhou Xian, wearing a tuxedo, twisted his fat body and walked nimbly to the booth of women. He fulfilled his previous promise, and really pulled back the reporters who were just about to disperse. He was immersed in the pleasure of dealing the finishing blow and looked at Qin Guang from afar. He thought to himself, I've said it before. I'll humiliate you. I'm going to tell everyone what you said that day in front of me, word for word. Will it be my honor to give you screening hall 14? You want me to witness the birth of a new era? I've never seen such a shameless person. In a sense, you do represent a new era. There shouldn't be anyone more shameless than you in the history of movies. This old man is showing off again. Boss, what should we do now? Lu Xiaoyang stood behind Qin Guang and asked nervously. Lu Xiaoyang knew how despicable Donald was. The boss could ignore the reporters and onlookers, but not Donald Zhou Xian. If he completely ignored him, Qin Guang's image, which had already fallen to rock bottom, would worsen further. He would be described by the media as an arrogant, rude, and boorish man. However, if he ignored him, who knew if the old man had prepared a new trick to piss people off? It's okay, ignore him. I'm super calm now. Really? I promise no one will die. Feng Tianyu was speechless. Lu Xiaoyang said, Why don't we leave? There's no need to let a villain get what he wants. It's 7:55 now and the movie will start in 5 minutes. As the three of them chatted, Donald walked closer and closer. Suddenly, the reporters behind Donald started a commotion. The crowd gradually stopped in their tracks. More and more people turned their attention to the other side of the square. They were looking at the wide red carpet on the side of the stage of women. What are these people doing here? Oh my God. I didn't hear that they were coming. Is this a Christmas surprise? Donald, who was in the crowd, also stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and looked into the distance, following the gaze of the others. His mouth was wide open and his face was full of confusion. Qin Guang and the others, who were mentally prepared to run away or stand there and be bombarded by Donald, also turned their heads to look at the end of the red carpet. After a brief moment of being stunned, Qin Guang suddenly grinned when he saw the black man who was walking in front of the crowd and waving at him from afar. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that in his most embarrassing and difficult time, a brother he had never considered would actually appear out of nowhere and become his savior. It was Bonner Pierce, the top coach in the North American boxing world, a veteran big shot. Behind him, walking all the way from the red carpet, were Mayweather, Mouthy Connor, John Cena, Big Brother Xiao, and other top fighters who were active in WWE mixed martial arts or professional boxing. They were world-class boxing superstars with tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of appearance fees. Although they were not as well known as entertainment stars, their fame and aura were not inferior to those in the entertainment industry. In fact, they were even better, because their fans were even more fanatical. It was evident from the incomparably fanatical and crazy expressions of the reporters who had originally planned to laugh at him. Qin Guang suddenly realized that he had been too immersed in his own world and writing a book. He had only been thinking of ways to make a name for himself in the entertainment industry. Why didn't I think of it earlier? I could actually start from other avenues. Damn it, luckily Black Bro saved me. He didn't know how much he had done for him, but to be able to pull such a lineup for him at this moment, there was really no one else who could match his friendship. Donald stood in the crowd in a daze, his mind blank. Am I seeing things? Is there an international boxing all-star match in Los Angeles today? What are these lunatics doing here? Did they go to the wrong set and walk the wrong red carpet? In terms of fame, perhaps these boxing kings might not be as famous as movie stars or singers, but in terms of personal income and fanaticism of their fans, Mouthy Connor and the others were really enough to catch up to a few celebrities. The reporters had completely lost control and completely forgot their original purpose. They screamed and madly rushed toward the boxing all-star lineup led by Bonner Pierce. They ran madly, the spears in their hands flashing crazily. Chapter 1072. Further away, more than half of the fans who had been crowding around the stage of The Sunshine Man, which had just ended, had come out and were rushing over to the stage. In the United States, which advocated the philosophy of the strong fighting superstars, had an unimaginably large audience. In another corner, the halfway through the premiere of July in Florence, was even more awkward. The stars who were enjoying the attention and spotlight of countless fans suddenly realized that more than half of the people in front of them had run away. Well, this was not the most awkward thing. The most awkward thing was that at the booth of Sunshine, several stars who were supposed to be in the theater for the premiere were screaming and rushing over like ordinary fans. Well, it was the same for July. Stars would also worship stars, especially superstars who crossed industries. Just like how Kobe and Messi appreciated each other, and how Jordan and Jackson regretted not meeting each other earlier. If it was just one or two fighting superstars, it probably wouldn't have caused such a sensation. However, the lineup behind Bonner Pierce was too luxurious. It included boxing champions from all major fighting fields, from WWE to K1, and from the lightweight to heavyweight boxing champions. There were at least 50 or 60 people, and each of them was very important. To each their own, there was bound to be one that suited you. This group of people together, according to their net worth, was like a moving $100 billion. The smile on Bent Affolet's face froze like cold water splashed into a pile of snow in winter. Donald's shoulder was bumped several times by the passing reporters, and he almost fell to the ground. He shouted in exasperation, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" On the other side, William Jones struggled to pull the young man next to him, the second male lead of Sunshine. "Baolun, are you crazy? Calm down. Calm down. This is our premiere." The onlookers had already rushed to the periphery of the fighting all-star lineup. Fortunately, these people had more or less brought bodyguards. The strong bodyguards formed a line hand in hand, forming a human wall that blocked all the reporters and the crowd outside. The fast-moving onlookers screamed as they pulled out their phones and clicked on the all-star lineup. They couldn't wait to share the scene in front of them on their social networks. "Elena, look who I ran into. Look at what kind of people they are. Oh my God. I'm so happy that I'm going crazy. Son, come to the plaza outside the Wuxia Theater in Hollywood. Your favorite verbal cannon Connor is here." And so on and so forth. The super luxurious all-star lineup drove everyone into a frenzy. The smile on Qin Guang's face became brighter and brighter. "Brother, you're the best. You've saved my life. How proud." The comfort in his heart wasn't any worse than the old man's comfort when he was in the realm of true martial arts and held the position of martial saint in his hands. At that moment, only the employees of the Tianguang group remained calm. The reason was very simple. They were extremely puzzled. "We didn't contact these big shots? If I'm not wrong, any one of the all-star lineup should have an appearance fee of more than $500,000. That's a moving appearance fee of $25 million. We don't have such an exaggerated budget for a premiere, right?" Lu Xiaoyang muttered to himself. D***M. What kind of luxurious lineup is this? An all-star lineup of WWE, UFC and professional boxing? Boss, is today Muhammad Ali's anniversary? Or did these brothers come to the wrong place? Are they next door? Fong Tianyu nodded vigorously. "That's right, that must be it. The other side's budget is through the roof. I've finally seen a tycoon who's more prodigal than you, boss." Qin Guang gave the two of them a kick each. Go to hell, they're all on the same side. Brothers, you're all here because of this old man's face. This face of the old man can be sold for tens of millions of US dollars. Lu Xiaoyang and Feng Tianyu were silent. Then they stared intently at Qin Guang's face. No, what we're looking at is not a face. It's a shiny, shiny cash. Boss, your face is going through the roof, isn't it? Your face is definitely gilded. Can't you see who these people are? At this moment, Qin Guang was also puzzled. He had no idea what method Pierce used to convince these people. Forget it, that's not important. What's important is that they're here. Today's situation is under control. No matter what, tonight's news is going to be written. Finally, the internet isn't full of negative reports. Bro Pierce, you helped me a lot. Make the arrangements immediately. Scatter flowers. Take pictures. Write a press release. Give out books to everyone. That's right, give out books. We can't afford it if we don't give out money. Qin Guang waved his hand and instructed as he walked to the center of the stage to welcome Bonner Pierce with a smile. The two approached each other and gave each other a bear hug. Qin Guang whispered into the black man's ear, "Mr. Pierce, how did you do it? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Bonner Pierce smiled and patted Qin Guang's back. "It's simple. I told them that you're the world's strongest fighting king, no matter in which field." They weren't convinced at first. Then I showed them the video of you testing the machine at my villa. They were all shocked. Then I told them that you didn't even use your full strength at that time. They were even more shocked. I told them that if they were willing to help you, you would teach them how to use force. As for why I didn't tell you in advance, don't you feel surprised? How is it? Exciting, right? Qin Guang nodded. Pierce had grasped these people's weakness. That's why he could fool them. At their level, what they lacked was not money but power. More powerful power. It was more precious than gold. Of course, Pierce's identity was also very important. He was a big shot in the North American boxing world and a top boxing coach with a wide range of contacts. Only his words were credible. Everyone in the fighting and boxing world knew what kind of person Bonner Pierce was. He would never joke about his personal credibility. If it were anyone else, there would be people in the world who could beat 10 of you. They would probably be pressed to the ground by Connor and the others and repeatedly rubbed until their parents couldn't recognize them. Qin Guang was very grateful. He patted Bonner's back tacitly. "Thank you. Mr. Pierce, you've helped me a lot. So exciting. My heart almost stopped beating." Bonner Pierce smiled. "Actually, I heard that you played a retired boxer in your movie. I'm very sorry that I didn't get to see you fight professionally. It was a very rare experience to see you play a boxer in a movie. I still remember the first time we met. You were performing Ali's butterfly moves in the coffee shop. I'll never forget that scene for the rest of my life. Although you're Asian, I think you look more like Ali than Will Smith. Thank you for your encouragement. You're almost the first American to truly recognize my acting skills. Don't be discouraged. When Will Smith wanted to play Ali, we laughed at him like crazy. You're being doubted now because people don't understand you. You're always challenging different fields. I like your constant challenging of the impossible. You're a very different Wuxia person. Alright, we've been hugging each other for too long. Let's go and welcome our other friends. Otherwise, people will think we have some special relationship." "Okay." Qin Guang turned around and greeted the many big men warmly. Among them were a few acquaintances he had met at Pierce's house. Meeting them again now was quite a unique feeling. After all the martial arts superstars stood on the stage one after another, Qin Guang cupped his hands. "Everyone, thank you. Thank you." Qin Guang had originally planned to express his gratitude to these martial arts big shots excitedly. However, since Pierce had already bragged about his abilities, he could not let down the title of the world's strongest martial artist. He had to show the demeanor of a Wuxia master. Many of the martial arts big shots did not stand on ceremony with him. One by one they learned his Wuxia etiquette and cupped their hands. Qin Guang's face was filled with a big smile. No matter who it was, even if it was a few beggars at this time, it would be a life-saving grace to him. What's more, these people were extremely popular. What about a top big shot? Although in terms of real martial arts, these people combined might not even be enough to fill the gaps between Qin Guang's teeth. However, what he needed now was famous reinforcements, not how good they were at fighting. He was very satisfied with the current show's effect. Very satisfied. There was only one flaw. Bonner Pierce, that black bro, should have informed him earlier. His little heart was scared out of its wits. Qin Guang, who was standing in the crowd, cast his gaze to the back of the crowd below the stage. There stood Donald Zhou Xian alone. The old man's face turned green and white. Even a blind man could see how embarrassed he was. He had already asked around in the entertainment industry. Indeed, there was no heavyweight who had accepted the invitation of women. Since yesterday he had been waiting to see today's joke. However, he did not expect that even though there was no one from the entertainment industry, the big shots in the martial arts and martial arts circles who had come were not any less influential than the entertainment industry. Damn it! This group of well-developed but simple-minded idiots. You will ruin the movie. Do you think you're helping him? You'll become the sinners of the entire movie industry. You'll be deserted by everyone. Donald waved his hand fiercely and turned to leave. There was nothing he could do. Qin Guang cast his gaze to a place further away. It was William Jones and the others who had been so proud of themselves. They had finally calmed down their friend, who was about to lose control of his emotions. The group of people turned around and walked into the cinema dejectedly. At this moment, the most embarrassed people were probably the crew of July in Florence, who were still walking the red carpet. The smile on Ben Affleck's face had already completely frozen on the spot, and the other main creative team and premier guests around him were not much better. Although there were still some hardcore fans in the crowd and a few media reporters who had not left, who knew what they would write when they went back. The security guards who had been hired to maintain order on the rather luxuriously decorated stage and the edge of the red carpet looked bored. There were only a few people in front of them. The people of July finally understood a little of what Qin Guang was feeling. It felt as if they were dressed up and confidently appeared on stage, but the audience booed. Damn clowns, a bunch of clowns. They must have taken money from the Chinese people. They are a disgrace to the upper class. A disgrace. Ben Affleck spat heavily on the red carpet beside him. The other people of July nodded. They did not think about how awkward it would be for Qin Guang to be targeted like this. They only thought that they were unhappy and wronged. Forget it, let's go in. The premiere is over. Our premiere is over. Ben sighed. He knew that cursing would not help. At this moment, another group of people appeared at the end of the red carpet for women. Chapter 1073. Qin Guang looked over from afar. He was stunned at first, then overjoyed. It's Tang Ying. Why is she here? Of course, if it was just Tang Ying, Qin Guang would be happy but not happy. However, there were many silver-haired old men beside Tang Ying. Although Qin Guang did not know these people, judging from the way they walked, he subconsciously felt that they should be of high status. Pierce, who was behind Qin Guang, immediately identified the person and answered Qin Guang's doubts. Strange, why is the president of Moreland's Medical College here? Qin Guang quietly turned his head. Mr. Pierce, do you know them? Pierce nodded vigorously. Of course, the president of Moreland's Medical College is the most famous sports medicine expert in the United States. I also know the one beside him, the best oncologist in the United States. Oh, and Mr. Byrant, the president of another medical college, the best brain doctor in the world. If you want to hire him for surgery, no amount of American dollars will move him. He must be happy. Oh my God. As a top boxing coach, Bonner Pierce obviously had a deep understanding of the European and American medical community. He could recognize about half of the dozen old men and women beside Tang Ying. Although he could not recognize the other half, they should be of the same level in the medical community. What are these people doing here? While Bonner was thinking about this, Qin Guang had already taken the lead to greet them. He and Tang Ying gave each other a big hug in accordance with the American etiquette. Bonner suddenly realized that they were all on Qin Guang's side, just like him. Sister Tang Ying, what's going on? I heard that you're about to embarrass yourself. We just settled the matter of the Joint Research Institute a couple of days ago. Coincidentally, my supervisor and I are attending a medical conference in Los Angeles. It's very close, so I was thinking of inviting them over to watch a movie. You have to be more humble and act like a junior. There are 2 winners of the Nobel Prize in Medicine among them. Qin Guang's expression instantly brightened. A Nobel Prize winner was already worthy of respect, let alone a Nobel Prize in medicine that saved lives. Although these old gentlemen were not as famous as the Brawl Kings, they were more influential. Can't be that simple, right? How did you convince them? Don't they know I'm stinking? I showed them the video of you competing in the world arm wrestling competition. I also told them that you are a senior official of China and no one can force you to do anything. If we want you to cooperate with us, we have to return the favor first. Besides, these old pedants don't really care about the gossip in the entertainment industry. Qin Guang immediately understood. *CK, you're selling my jeans just like that. Forget it, this is not important. In any case, this old man no longer has to worry about being used as a guinea pig. Tang Ying is right. If you want to obtain this old man's essence, Pui genes, then you have to make this old man happy first. Will there be high-frequency gene harvesting in the future? I'm afraid my body won't be able to keep up. Dream on. One harvest is enough to last you for a few months, and I'm the only one harvesting it. Do you hear me? Okay. We've been hugging for too long. Qin Guang quickly let go of Tang Ying and greeted the group of old men and women behind him. They shook hands and chatted cordially. After greeting everyone, Qin Guang felt a chill down his spine. *CK, I should avoid making friends with people in the medical field in the future. I feel like they're looking at me like I'm a specimen soaked in formalin. The media reporters and spotlights were still flashing non-stop. Unlike Qin Guang's ignorance, the well-informed media immediately recognized the principal and two other Nobel Prize winners. The reporters almost went crazy. Just what kind of groundbreaking movie premiere did we just get to witness? Although the guests had almost nothing to do with the movie, this was a bit too much. Even our comrade Ao Guanhai had to make an appointment to meet these big shots in the medical field. They actually gathered together to attend the premiere of a Wuxia movie. At this time, the countdown had reached 7:58, 2 minutes before the movie premiere. The superstars of the fighting and boxing world had already been led inside by the staff of the Tianguang group. On the stage, it was the medical giants who appeared. But this was not the end. Another group of people appeared. Qin Guang continued to look up. There were another 10 people, tall and short, fat and thin, ranging from middle-aged to old. The people who came were people he had defeated before. The world's top pianist, Raven Holland, the beautiful Portuguese pianist, Christina, the French piano master, Pires, the American piano master who had also lost to him, and many others he did not know at all. Finally, a big shot who was related to the entertainment industry but not the movie industry had appeared. Qin Guang did not expect that these people who had lost to him in the past would stand up for him with such a clear attitude when he was deserted by the whole world. This was all a pleasant surprise. You guys gave me face today, but in fact you guys recognized me as a person. If not for today's special occasion, Qin Guang would not have thought that he would be so popular. However, this was not the end. Behind the big shots of the piano world, another dense group of people appeared. Qin Guang clenched his fists, showing that he was stunned. Dominic Diesel walked at the front, followed by Pan Junyao from Thailand, Speed from the Rainforest from Brazil, Frank from Detroit, and so on. 6 of the top 10 underground car kings who had a duel with Qin Guang had come. There were 3 or 4 people beside them. They seemed to be keeping a low profile beside the kings of the underground racing world, but the knowledgeable reporters recognized them at a glance. They were this year's newly crowned F1 champion Hamilton, the WRC rally champion Baralt, and the Dakar rally champion Mendeley. The big shots of the racing world had also come to support Qin Guang. Behind them there was a group of middle-aged men and women in uniforms. Qin Guang looked at their uniforms and the familiar faces walking at the front and recognized them. They were the big shots of the civil aviation world. The CEOs of several civil aviation groups around the world. Behind this group of big shots in uniforms, there was a group of young and old men and women. Qin Guang also remembered them. They were the big shots of the global linguistics world who had dealt with him at the World Language Conference and ended up parting on bad terms. He thought that he would not have to deal with them again, but he did not expect them to come quietly. Obviously, the monograph he wrote later had a great impact on them. Although because of their age and skin color, these people were not willing to express their recognition, gratitude, and appreciation on social media, they were still grateful and recognized his great contribution in linguistics. This was not the end. Behind this group of language experts and scholars, there was a group of young people. The young people obviously did not expect that there would be such a big scene today. They were a little reserved under the cameras and flashes of the reporters, and their footsteps on the red carpet were slightly shaky. Qin Guang could see that they seemed to be retreating. They seemed to regret coming here today. They were not very confident. Therefore, Qin Guang directly stepped over everyone who was walking over and waved at these young people from afar. The youngsters' spirits were immediately lifted, and they followed closely behind the linguists. These young people were the world's top Dota players in America at this time. Comrade Mao Yongren, Babiv, RTZ and so on. Although they were not famous among ordinary people, they were extremely popular among the young people, especially in the Dota player circle. On the other side, many young people ran under the stage of July. Both sides were their idols, and after weighing the two they still felt that they liked esports more. In just a few minutes, the originally incomparably shabby premiere of Women had become a dazzling scene. Although these celebrities had almost nothing to do with the movie, all the guests added up, whether it was the weight or the grandeur, it was not inferior to the opening ceremony of Paris Fashion Week. This kind of extravagance was more than enough to support a mere movie premiere. Qin Guang looked calm on the surface, but he was already laughing in his heart. The old man's years of doing good deeds had not been in vain after all. There were still many people in this world who recognized him. The brains of the movie's main cast and guests had already crashed. William Jones and the others sitting in the cinema were not much better. Donald, who had simply run straight home, was even more exasperated. He had seen everything through the photos and videos sent by the theater staff. Although the premiere at his Hollywood Wuxia theater was of a higher level in a sense, it also made him proud. But that was not what he wanted. Damn it. Donald's heart was filled with indescribable regret. If he had known this would happen, he would not have given Women such a large venue. He should have given him a small corner. Now he had gone for wool and come home shorn. Instead he had made this shameless Chinese proud. Every time Women had a heavyweight guest, it was a hard slap to the faces of Donald and the other filmmakers. This meant that the entire movie industry had disregarded everything and joined forces to boycott Qin Guang's movie, but they had suffered a heavy blow. In order to organize a good premiere, how much did Qin Guang spend? A few $100 million US? No wonder he had always been so confident. It turned out that he had already prepared for this. That damn despicable person. Jenny, where are you? Bring me the heart medicine. Sir, Madam went out with her friends from the community service station 5 minutes ago. She said that she was going to participate in a charity event. Your medicine is with me. The old maid said respectfully and took out a medicine bottle from her pocket. Chapter 1074. Donald lost control of his emotions and smashed his phone on the floor. I told her to just stay at home. Why did she have to participate in that damned community service? She's wasting her life. Sir, do I need to pass on your message to Madam? No. I was just joking. Please don't tell Jenny. After the maid left in a seemingly respectful manner but was actually trying to hold back her laughter, Donald sighed again. He thought of his wife who was fierce but did not like to manage the family's affairs. She was an extremely devout believer of the religion and only indulged in community activities. He felt another headache coming on. Guys, hurry up. It's almost time, Mrs. Zhou Xian. We've been waiting for you for too long. I'm sorry, everyone. I just had a phone call with my son in Boston. Oh yeah, what are we going to do today? Watch a movie. Huh, movie? No, I hate movies. My old man only knows how to show movies and my stupid son only knows how to make movies. I get a headache whenever I hear the word, movie. No. This is a movie from China. Also, Mrs. Zhou Xian, I have to tell you a piece of good news. Your husband, Mr. Zhou Xian, wants this movie to have no audience at all. Recently, he has been going around asking his friends to boycott this movie. Really? Then why should we help him? Actually, it's my niece's request. She feels that the Chinese man is too pitiful. Jenny Zhou Xian said, all right, since it's a movie that even my husband wants to boycott, then I really want to watch it. If Donald, who was sulking at home until he had a heart attack, knew that the community service that his precious wife Jenny participated in was actually to watch Women, he would probably pass out from anger. At 8:05 p.m., the world premiere of Women finally started after a delay of 5 minutes after a few twists and turns. The VIPs who followed did not stand on the red carpet or the stage for long for the media. Other than the Pierce Squad and the Pianist Squad, who came first, The VIPs who came later did not have stage fright but did not have much interest in being celebrities on the runway. Time did not allow for it either. They just took a few simple photos for the media and then went into the cinema one after another. All the uninvited guests had just taken their seats, and the film had already begun, when Madame Zhou Xian and her friends from the community service station arrived, led by the German girl and her aunt. Because of Qin Guang's promise, Screening Hall 14 skipped the process of checking the tickets. However many people from the community came, they would be allowed in and everyone would be given a copy of the first volume of World Faction. Screening Hall 14, which could only accommodate 150 people, was filled to the brim. Including everyone, there were exactly 150 people. As for the reporters who changed their minds and wanted to attend the premiere, they were stopped outside by Qin Guang. The reason was simple. Although he used the face fruit to turn the tables at the crucial moment, this was only the first step in his counterattack. From now on, everything he did had to be more purposeful. Letting the reporters in today seemed like a good idea, but in fact there was great potential danger. The preconceived and unscrupulous media personnel were harder to convert than the ordinary audience. Although there would definitely be some people who would become true fans of the movie, there would definitely be people who would be stubborn or greedy. Tomorrow they would still criticize women with their brilliant writing. However, Qin Guang only needed to let the media people report on the premiere, and that was enough positive publicity. As for the real standard of the movie, there was no need for them to tell him for now. Even if they would lose part of the tap water, they would be able to avoid negative news first. The benefits of tap water were not as big as the disadvantages of the brainless haters. Not to mention the media people who were born with crooked butts. With his current popularity, the media people who came out of the cinema to write positive reports would be regarded as being paid to do things, but the media people who wrote negative reports would be regarded as having the conscience of the industry. Although this was unavoidable, there was no need to let them in since it was the world's first premiere, which was held 12 hours earlier than in China. Tomorrow the situation at the Los Angeles premiere would be seen by all the major media, but only a few people went to watch it and the media would not say anything about it. The international friends of Demi would definitely be very curious and drive them to the cinema to find out what was going on. What exactly was this super bad movie that was going to be splattered all over the world? Qin Guang calculated in his heart and determined that the benefits of rejecting the media first outweighed the disadvantages by 5%. That's right, it was that precise. As for the ordinary audiences that the German girl tricked from the community service station, Qin Guang did not particularly care about how much tap water these people could produce. If the number of people did not reach a certain level, it would seem insignificant. Standing at the entrance of the theater and listening to the prelude of the music, Qin Guang finally relaxed and let out a long breath when everything was on track. Lu Xiaoyang, who was standing next to him, saw this and asked, "Boss, now is not the time to rest, right? Although the premiere is full, the attendance at other places tonight won't be that high, right? Although we have a lot of big names helping us, it still needs time to ferment if we want to create a sensation on social media. We won't be able to make it in time for the 10:30 public screening, and there's no hope for the midnight screening after 12 o'clock. If we want to turn the attendance around, we'll have to wait until tomorrow at the earliest, right?" Qin Guang smiled and waved his hand. "It doesn't matter. Take your time. Everything is under control." Lu Xiaoyang looked at his confident smile and did not know what to say. Forget it, the boss has always been like this. But then again, the situation today was miraculously turned around. Although he did not do anything, didn't this mean that the boss was the son of Providence? He won by lying down. The boss was not only capable, but his luck was also heaven-defying. He should be more confident. If he was not confident, then shouldn't the rest of us hang ourselves? Lu Xiaoyang could not understand. In fact, the moment Theater 14 was full, Qin Guang had completely foreseen the situation in the next few days. Outside the theater, the reporters had not left yet. Inside the theater, some of the crew members who had just finished the premiere had not left yet. There were also some big names in the media circle who had attended other movie premieres, and they were also watching with great interest. Although they did not attend the premiere of Women, if they could get first-hand dirt from the audience, it would be an important report that could expand their influence. The crowd stood in groups of 2s and 3s in the theater aisle, whispering to each other. "It's 8:25 now. I bet $10 that someone will come out of Theater 14 within 5 minutes. I bet $100. 10 minutes. I bet $1,000. 5 minutes. Mr. Diaz, what do you think? You guys bet yourselves. I'm not interested. I'm a little sleepy and I'm going to the hotel to rest. Markov, say hello to the dean of Wesley College for me. No problem, but I have to wait for a while. What? Are you worried that this movie from Wuxia will affect you? Don't joke around. You are not in the same genre. You don't have to care about them. No, Cameron. I got Theater 7 from them. I don't know why, but I feel a little uneasy. Do whatever you want. The big shots in the media world didn't have the same worries as the film director. Now that everyone knew about the amazing scene at the premiere of Women, they also knew what kind of people were sitting in the number 14 screening hall. Apart from the dozens of old men and women in the community, the other guests were important enough to support a Dior, Louis Vuitton, or Bentley's global new product launch. They were surprised by the Chinese's unconventional approach. Since the people in the entertainment circle were boycotting him, he found guests from other places and they were even more important. They were also happy that they finally had a new topic to write about. When the important guests left in advance, the big names in the media circle, would be able to directly interview them in the theater and let them express their feelings. This was a good thing for the new reporters who were stuck outside but could not get it. Some people were thinking about their position, wondering if they should change their position and speak for women and Qin Guang. At the same time, there were also people pondering how they should ask questions to guide the interviewee's thoughts so that the interviewee would fall into a trap and say something that could be taken out of context to attack Qin Guang. If they could dig out some unfavorable information from the F1 champion, the WRC champion, and the superstars, they could use it to make a big article. Even the guests who had received Qin Guang's USD couldn't stand his movie. Thinking about it, was there anything worse than this? No one in the media thought that the guests of Women would appear for free. They silently estimated the appearance fee that Qin Guang could pay. Except for the big names in the medical circle whose value could not be accurately estimated, especially the 2 Nobel Prize winners, the appearance fee of the others would probably add up to hundreds of millions of USD, right? Not to mention this kind of movie premiere, which had its own negative impact on one's personal image. Stupid Chinese. Do you think you can control everything with money? Do you think you can turn the tables by finding some famous people? Don't you know that the higher the status of the people you find and the more important they are, the harder it is to control their mouths? Don't you know that an ordinary person saying that your movie is not good 10,000 times is not as good as a simple word, boring, thrown by an authority in any field? Time passed bit by bit. In the aisles of the theater, people who chose to watch other movies came and went. The main production team of some movies could not stand the harassment of fans along the way and quietly retreated, but the big names in the media circle did not waver. Gradually, they found that the situation was a little wrong. Half an hour passed and no one came out of Theater 14. An hour passed and still no one came out. Chapter 1075. Some people tried to sneak up to the door of screening hall 14 to see what was going on, but they were stopped by countless burly bodyguards. What the hell, why didn't anyone leave early? How would I know? Did the Wuxia people put superglue on their chairs? Did they stick their butts on it? It's not impossible. An hour and a half later. I'm already planning to write a script. An unprecedented scandal in the history of the film industry. Crazy Wuxia tycoons put their guests under house arrest in the screening hall to let people finish watching their trashy movie. What do you think of my title? It's pretty good, but you're too slow. I've already written it and the meaning is similar to yours. I'll send it to the chief editor after the premiere. Can you two stop joking around? Would you dare to put a Nobel Prize winner under house arrest even if you had 10 guts? And the CEOs of several airline companies around the world? Oh, and Big Shio, Mouthy Connor, John Sinon and Hamilton? What else? Can you give us a more reasonable explanation? Qin Guang's movie is especially good? How can these big shots whose time is like gold be reluctant to leave? That's ridiculous. As far as I know, many guests at premieres often just go through the motions at the beginning and leave very quickly. They can't finish watching the movie in the first place. This is the established rule in the industry. It's too hard to understand why these big shots would sit in the theater for 2 hours. Do you know how much Mouthy Connor gets to attend a fashion brand launch that only lasts for half an hour? 800,000 US dollars. But they really haven't come out yet. Finally, a full 2 hours passed. The door of screening hall 14 opened with a loud bang. There was no scene that the reporters and the main producers of the other movies had imagined, and no one rushed out of the door. Everyone thought that the audience who was locked inside would flee in panic. Now they realized that they were wrong. The first to walk out were the big shots of the medical world. Each of them held a book in their hands and looked dazed. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. No one communicated with each other, nor did they whisper. They just frowned and fell into deep thought. Behind the big shots of the medical world were linguists and pianists. These people also seemed to be possessed. All of them were silent and had a book in their hands. The big shots of the media circle pounced on them in a frenzy. Mr. Neuer, may I ask if your personal freedom is restricted in the theater? Mr. Wieland, how do you feel about this movie? Do you think Qin Guang's performance in the movie is worthy of an actor? Countless questions were fired from the mouths of the big shots in the media circle towards the big shots in the audience. Fortunately, the bodyguards brought by the fighting superstars were very strong. They formed 2 human walls and blocked all the reporters outside. Of course, these were all giants in the academic world. Unlike ordinary celebrities, the reporters did not dare to be as impulsive as they were to entertainment figures. But no one answered their question. It was as if they had lost their minds and were completely immersed in their own world, not paying attention to what was happening outside. The reporters' punches all hit the air and they couldn't help but look at each other. What happened in the theater? This doesn't make sense, right? Even if it was a normal person after watching a movie, they would more or less say something when asked by others. What was going on with them now? Could it be that the Wuxia people had drugged the theater and made everyone faint for 2 hours? That's even more ridiculous. This will land him in jail for a long time. What kind of trick did he use? A mysterious power from the east? Everyone in the theater was hypnotized? Finally, when some young faces appeared at the back of the crowd, the reporters and the other film staff watching the situation saw some different expressions. These young esports players were very excited. Behind the esports players were many big names in the martial arts circle. They were even more excited than the esports players. Mr. Xian, may I ask if this movie, it's amazing. It's incomparable. I can't find any words to describe how perfect it is. I swear I've never seen such a perfect performance in my life. No, it can't even be called a performance anymore. Mr. Qin showed us the whole world. By the way, if you have the chance, I suggest you buy his book. It's the one in my hand. Before the reporter could finish his question, Xian had already interrupted him and waved the first volume of World Faction in his hand. Mr. Xian, what happened to the movie? The reporters continued to ask, unwilling to give up. The strong Xian had a mischievous smile on his face. He blinked and said, "Why are you asking me? Can't you afford to pay for a movie ticket?" Mr. Damon from the Washington Post. Sorry, my mind is full of movies now. I can't wait to go back to the hotel and find a quiet place to read Mr. Chen's book. Sorry, I have to go. Xian left quickly after saying that, even though the person who asked him was actually an acquaintance of his in the media circle. Further ahead, young esports players were also being interviewed. They were 10 times more excited than John Xian. The reporters who were trying to dig out some dirt from these people found that they couldn't find an entry point to discredit the movie from the mouths of the brainless fans who were so excited that they were talking incoherently about Qin Guang's movie. Perfect. It's never been so perfect. Qin Guang is the real best actor. I swear. Mao Yongren said, "I'm proud that I have the same skin color and race as him. Don't ask me anything and I don't want to talk to anyone. I've never liked movies, but tonight I realized how shallow I am. You really should buy tickets to go to the cinema, or you'll regret it for the rest of your life." The reporters didn't expect such a scene at all. The people who came out of the screening hall were acting so strangely. Did you mistakenly enter the legendary Amway group and get lectured? You guys are very abnormal. The reporters had seen classic movies with good reputation and box office, but they had never seen such a good movie that could make celebrities shamelessly flatter it without any bottom line. For a person like Xian, even if he was paid, he couldn't brag about a bad movie like this. Otherwise, his personal image would be greatly damaged. This couldn't be called a good movie at all. This was Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, right? Finally, the old men, women, and aunties from the community service station filed out at the back of the crowd. The reporters thought to themselves, we may not get a fair evaluation from the guests who have been paid, but it should be okay for us to interview the ordinary audience, right? They were doomed to get nothing from the celebrities, so they could only count on the ordinary audience. A noblewoman dressed in luxurious clothes was surrounded by many people from the community service station. The reporters undoubtedly noticed her at the first moment. May I ask this beautiful lady, what do you think of the movie you watched today? The plump lady tidied up her slightly fluffy blonde hair, blushed and said excitedly, I don't know how to express my feelings at this time, but I can't wait to invite everyone in the world to the cinema. Wait a minute, aren't you Mrs. Zhou Xian? Someone recognized the noblewoman. Jenny Zhou Xian didn't feel that there was a problem at all. She pointed to her face and said, I am indeed Jenny Zhou Xian. Is there a problem? Isn't your husband? The reporter was slightly embarrassed. He wanted to say something but stopped. As a well-informed reporter in the industry, he naturally knew that Donald and his wife didn't get along. One was a crazy old man from the Zhou Xian family who loved movies, and the other was a lady from the aristocratic Edward family who hated movies. Their marriage from the beginning was a huge mistake. This was a taboo in the media circle. Whoever mentioned it would be hated by the petty Donald. Donald is Donald and I am me. But you used to hate movies. The reporter finally couldn't hold it in. Jenny was stunned at first, but she didn't get angry. Instead she smiled and said, That's right, but that was in the past. From tonight onwards I've changed my mind. I admit that movies are actually a very good art. In the past I did hate movies for no reason because I felt that this d*med thing first took away my husband and then my son. But today I understand that what I hate is only bad movies. The movies in the past weren't enough to make me feel moved and intoxicated. Now I can roughly understand why my stubborn husband and equally stubborn son were willing to work so hard for this art. As soon as Madame Zhou Xian said that, the reporters and the other crew members who were eavesdropping at the side were completely stunned. In a sense, this was probably the highest praise that could possibly appear on Earth. It was only a 2-hour movie. Yet Mrs. Zhou Xian, who hated movies and was said to have been a domestic abuser of Donald for more than 20 years, had a change of heart. The most outrageous thing was that she actually said that all the movies in the past were bad movies, and that was why she hated movies. Do you know how many people you've offended by saying that? You've negated all the works in the history of the human film industry for more than 100 years. All for the sake of today's movie. What's worse is that this movie has completely overshadowed your husband and son's decades of persistence. You're actually starting to understand their dreams. This is an AF*King movie, it's a hallucinogenic drug, right? Finally, the reporter who asked the first question reacted and found another hot topic in time. Madame Zhou Xian, does this mean that you'll support your husband and son's career in the future? Madame Zhou Xian thought about it. Not necessarily. Alright, I have to go home. I have a lot to talk to Donald about. After Jenny finished speaking, she turned to look at a huge camera at the side. It was a live broadcast from the Los Angeles Entertainment Channel. She pointed at the camera. Donald, I know you're watching TV. Don't fall asleep before I get home. Look at the book in my hand. You really have to learn it well. I'll also have a good discussion with you about the movies that you want to persevere in. After saying that, Jenny held the first volume of World's Pie in front of the camera. She paused for a few seconds before putting the book away. Then she walked further and further away, surrounded by her fellow community members. Chapter 1076. At that moment Donald, who was sitting in front of the TV, almost fainted. His hands trembled as he picked up the heart medication and threw it into his mouth. My God. He felt like he had seen a ghost. At the same time he was considering whether he should run away from home. He was worried that he would not be able to see the sun rise the next day when his wife came back. Meanwhile, the reporters finally saw the cover and title of the book. World School of Performing Arts. Shocking. Alright, the long list of names was too long. Don't mind the details. The book was beautifully packaged, but it did not show the name of the publisher. It was probably a printed product produced by the Wuxia tycoon Qin Guang at his own expense. It could not be considered a publication. But what the hell was with the cover photo? That Wuxia man Qin Guang himself? How shameless must you be to print your own photo on the cover of a book like that? Is this the performing arts monograph that you were talking about? I don't care how you wrote it or what you wrote in it or whether you wrote it yourself. But isn't it a little too shameless to use your own photo on the cover? You could probably land on the moon if you were to fold your skin in half. At that moment, Qin Guang was still standing at the entrance of Theater 14 with a smile. He greeted everyone who came out of the theater warmly and expressed his gratitude. When most of the people had left and the bodyguards had left one after another, he walked out surrounded by the employees of the Tianguang group. Mr. Qin, may I ask what you did to the audience in the theater? Qin Guang looked at the tall white reporter with a hooked nose and smirked. I played a movie for them and gave each of them a book that I wrote. That's all. Impossible. You must have done something shameful. You Wuxia people have always been like this. Qin Guang snorted. Do you dare to bet your grandmother's health on me? I can sue you for racial discrimination. The white reporter's expression changed. I'm sorry, I didn't choose the right words. But I think your movie is definitely not as perfect as they say it is. It's not realistic. What did you do to Madame Zhou Xian? Qin Guang was stunned at first. Madame Zhou Xian? Who? You actually don't know. Jenny Zhou Xian, wife of Mr. Donald Zhou Xian. He just came out of the theater. After a brief moment of confusion, Qin Guang's anger quickly overflowed. I really don't know. Alright, that despicable Justin. I thought it would be enough to block the reporters, but he actually let his wife sneak into the audience. Is he trying to attack me himself? Despicable. Shameless. The reporters and the other crew members looked at each other. For some reason they suddenly had a strong urge to strangle this man. Too much, really too much. You can't pretend like that. Madame Zhou Xian praises you to the heavens and you call her despicable. Doesn't your conscience reproach you? But this also proved a terrifying fact. Qin Guang really didn't seem to have done anything. He didn't even know what had happened in the theater? No, Qin Guang from Wuxia. This is a recording of Madame Zhou Xian's interview that I just recorded with my phone. You can take a look. Qin Guang received the phone with doubt in his heart. But a brief moment later his face had miraculously turned slightly red. Although it was quite comfortable to be praised, this kind-looking Madame Zhou Xian had praised him a little too much. Fortunately he was thick-skinned enough. Anyone else would not have been able to take it. It was hard to believe that this was the wife of that sneaky old man Donald. This guy must have been a war doctor in his previous life. He must have saved at least 10,000 wounded people in World War II. He must have done a great service to be able to marry such a discerning and unique wife. Qin Guang, don't you feel ashamed? The reporter took the phone back and fired a shot at him. Qin Guang shrugged. Why should I feel ashamed? Do you think you can take such a heavy evaluation? Qin Guang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Why can't I take it? Have you seen my movies? Where did you get the right to speak? Suddenly the long corridor fell silent. Hearing Qin Guang's tone, he actually accepted Madame Zhou Xian's crazy words. He felt no pressure and felt that it was only natural. This meant that he really felt that he could suppress all the classic works in the history of the film industry. How arrogant! How arrogant! How arrogant and condescending! How belittling the heroes of the world! No, not only did he belittle the heroes of the world, but he also did not let go of the seniors of the film industry who had passed away. Although they had always felt that this Wuxia man was especially arrogant and had even been molded by public opinion into a devil who had suddenly appeared in the film industry. Many reporters were already mentally prepared for his possible attitude, but now they realized that they had been too optimistic about the situation. Or rather, this Wuxia man's arrogance was a little too exaggerated. Compared to his current performance, it was child's play for him to aim for an Oscar in his first movie. There was no limit to his arrogance. His arrogance and domineeringness had broken history, and his shamelessness had reached a new height of human shamelessness. Crazy, completely crazy. Have you eaten up the word modesty in your dictionary? Do you know what you're saying? Qin Guang instantly fell into a state of being criticized by thousands of people, but his expression did not change. He only looked at the crowd calmly. Are you guys done? His voice was very low, but it had an inexplicable majesty to it, causing the noisy corridor to return to silence in an instant. You guys are really strange. These words did not come from my own mouth, but from other people's evaluation of me and my work. Then why are you guys questioning me here? Don't you think this is ridiculous? You guys have completely violated the professional ethics of a media person. You guys have been biased from the beginning, which is why you are saying such things to me now. The next show will start in half an hour. You haven't even watched it, so how can you judge my movie? It's just like how I have never seen your wife, but I say she is ugly. Will you be happy? After the premiere, even Joshton's wife had become his die-hard fan. The movie's effect was better than he had imagined. Now Qin Guang had more confidence in his words. He couldn't be bothered to be courteous with the reporters and decisively started to act like a rooster. The hook-nosed reporter who had been scolded by him did not agree. Your accusation is without reason. In my heart, my wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. And my doubts about you are reasonable. You have never acted in a movie before. Yes, but there is an absolute relationship between love and appearance. I can't see what your wife looks like from your face. Your sophistry. You can understand it that way, but it doesn't matter. There are still 15 minutes to 10:30. I advise you to hurry up, or I'm afraid you won't be able to buy the tickets for the first screening. In fact, he was bragging. The attendance at the Wuxia Theater in Hollywood would probably be very good, but there was no hope for the other theaters to make a comeback, at least for today. If they were nimble, they could run out of the Wuxia Theater in 10 minutes to another large theater. It should be very easy to buy tickets there. After saying that, Qin Guang turned around and left. After taking 2 steps, he turned back again, took a deep breath and said heavily, "Anyway, you won't believe anything I say now. No matter if I am low-key or arrogant now, you will still write about me in the news tomorrow. So I will say it clearly. Yes, I do believe in one thing. You have to prick up your ears and listen carefully. My movie may not be perfect or the best, but my personal acting art will definitely be epic-making. Unprecedented. Enough to be recorded in the history books. Just like everything else I have done before. You'd better memorize every single word I said, because 100 years later, my words will appear in every film history course in every film academy." After saying that, he really left this time, leaving behind a dumbfounded face of the media and other film producers. Their brains were completely shaken to the point that their worldview was about to collapse. Everyone felt that something was wrong. What this Wuxia man said was too exaggerated. But now no one could find an angle to refute him. No matter how tricky it was, they couldn't find an angle. This guy's premier reputation was too terrifying. In the face of such a reputation, many people were unconvinced and felt uncomfortable. But as Qin Guang said, they didn't go to the cinema, so it was useless to say anything now. Many people felt a faint sense of regret in their hearts. If they had known this would happen, they would have directly applied for the tickets to his premiere as a media reporter. At the beginning, they shouldn't have shown such strong hostility to him, and even deliberately ignored his premiere in order to distance themselves from him. Now it was too late for regrets. They had missed the breaking point of the news. It was said that people in the same industry were enemies. The other film producers had even more complicated thoughts. They had a strong urge to see with their own eyes what the movie that was praised looked like. But although they were tempted, they were hesitant. The decision to boycott him was the consensus of the entire film industry. If they went to watch his movie, wouldn't it be like providing him with box office? They would be laughed at. If the news spread, wouldn't they be laughed at? What if he really used special means to make others praise him against their will? Wouldn't they become even more of a laughingstock? They were in pain and hesitated. They were extremely tempted by the amazing reputation of the premiere of Women, but they couldn't make up their minds because of various reasons. Until a reporter who went there to buy the tickets for the first public screening rushed back and shouted, "Friends who want to watch Women, you have to hurry up." Those celebrities who just went out and even those medical experts are outside encouraging people to go to the cinema. It has already caused a sensation. Many people changed their minds at the last minute and decided to watch Women. The first public screening of this lousy movie in the Wuxia Theater is still in the number 14 screening room, and now there are only about 40 tickets left. Well, the person who was hesitating just now turned his head and forgot what he was thinking a second ago. Think again. If he thought again, he wouldn't be able to think anymore. Many big names in the media and other crew members rushed to the ticket counter crazily and almost started fighting. It was all because mobile phone apps were not popular in North America. Otherwise, everyone would be quietly competing for internet speed. Chapter 1077. The Sunshine Man and July in Florence were both about 2.5 hours long, and there were only 10 or 20 minutes left, but William Jones and Ben Affleck could hardly sit still in the cinema. They had already watched the film countless times. During the whole screening process, their attention was not on the screen. Instead, they lowered their heads and played with their phones, watching the limelight on social media. The decline at the premiere was irreversible, but in the hearts of the two strongest Oscar contenders, it was not important at all. They cared more about the reputation and box office performance of women. Although they didn't take women seriously before, the sudden change at the premiere left a lingering shadow in the hearts of all the people in the two production teams. Although they did not want to admit it, they were worried that they could not control it. At 8:10 p.m., the first report about the reputation of the premiere of Women finally appeared, which made the eyelids of the two crew members, especially the two male leads, twitch violently. Horrible reviews. How amazing was the premiere of Women? William and Bent unanimously rejected this headline, which was obviously written by someone Qin Guang had paid someone to write. They even refused to provide even one click for it. At 8:13 p.m. the second report appeared. It was from Damon, a well-known reporter from the Washington Post. He had previously been a staunch hater of Qin Guang and had even asked the art director of Sunshine for an interview. He was acquainted with the two crew members. Damon's headline was, "The Ghost Filmmaker from the East? He has utterly conquered John Heenan." The crew members of the two crew members who had come for the Olympic film could not sit still anymore. A small number of them chose to click on it to see what was going on. Both Damon and Heenan were celebrities that could not be ignored. 2 minutes later, the person who clicked on it extracted the content of the article and shared it with the people around him. The atmosphere of panic gradually brewed and spread in the two premiere theaters. At the same time, the third and the fourth, more and more reports appeared in the media and social networks. The influence of the premiere of Women, which had already caused a certain amount of popularity, was superimposed. It gradually became a torrent, as if it was going to sweep the entire internet. In the end, William Jones couldn't help but click on an article written by Gay, a reporter from Pan American Entertainment. The title of the article was, "The Wuxia Movie Changed Madame Josh Tam. Will Donald Josh Tam be redeemed, or will he be subjected to more brutal violence?" This kid named Guy was actually William Jones' high school classmate. The two of them had always been on good terms. Guy also knew where he stood. William Jones couldn't accept the fact that his classmate had started to speak up for Qin Guang. He also had a strong desire to know what his classmate had written. Then he almost jumped out of his chair in shock. It was about the same on Ben Affleck's side. Only a blind person could not see the craziness on the internet. At 8:20 p.m. Sunshine and July were about to play the most important ending of the entire movie, but the huge premiere theater was filled with whispers that couldn't be hidden. The members of the media sitting in the back for the premiere couldn't help but whisper to each other, even though they knew it was rude to talk in the cinema. If it weren't for the publicity fees they received from the two film crews, these people would have rushed out. A question mark as tall as the Statue of Liberty appeared in everyone's mind. What kind of movie did the Wuxia man make? What kind of incredible movie gave him the confidence to spout nonsense like that? What made the audience, both celebrities and ordinary people, go crazy? What made Madame Josh Tam instantly change as if she felt the call of the Lord? Our premiere has completely turned into a farce. Listening to the annoying buzzing in the theater, the same thought appeared in William Jones and Ben Affleck's minds. They were angry and helpless. In the end, Donald Josh Tam didn't escape. Instead, he took out the heart medicine and placed it on the desk. Then he pretended to be in extreme pain and waited quietly in the study. "That's right, so I won't get beaten up. Although Jenny has a bad temper, she still loves me." Donald comforted himself. At that moment he was angry, confused, and panicked, but he was also extremely curious and regretful. "Damn it, I want to see the Wuxia man's Women. If I had known earlier, I would have personally checked the digital source of the movie. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the dark now. Also, what exactly is written in the book in Jenny's hand?" The door creaked and the heavy footsteps could be heard. It was Jenny coming up the stairs. Donald calmed himself down and silently flipped open the Bible in his hand. He read aloud, "In the 4th chapter of Jonah, the Lord said, 'Is it reasonable for you to be angry? The Lord is a gracious and merciful God. He does not get angry easily. Even if there is a disagreement, The servants of God should follow God's guidance and use a tolerant and merciful heart to accommodate all opposing opinions, whether it's your family, friends, or even strangers. Only when you are full of love can you have a pure life. Donald, the Bible doesn't contain the nonsense you added at the end. Zhou Xian stood in front of the study table and gently placed the first volume of Qin Guang's World Faction on the table. She admitted that she had the intention of twisting Donald's ear before entering the house. However, her old husband had even brought out the Gospel of the Lord and filled the table with heart medicine. What else could she say? Mrs. Zhou Xian, who suddenly understood her husband's pursuit in life, looked at her husband with a rare gentleness and love. Maybe it was because of the illumination of the orange table lamp in the middle of the night, or maybe it was because she was inspired by the Gospel of the Bible. Donald felt relieved. I've passed the dangerous test. Thank God. Jenny. His voice was slightly trembling. He did not know if it was because he was touched or nervous. Madame Zhou Xian sighed. Donald, as you have said yourself, you also need a great and forgiving heart to be tolerant of others. You should really watch Qin Guang's movie. This is his book. I didn't read the content, but I'm sure you'll like it. Mrs. Zhou Xian pushed the first volume of World Faction, with Qin Guang's handsome face, on it forward slowly. It was placed in front of Donald, right next to the gold-rimmed Bible. Donald keenly noticed that his wife had a religious devotion in her eyes when she looked at the book. What the hell? This is too scary. Did Jenny attend Mass for 2 hours in Theater 14? He opened his mouth to speak, but Mrs. Zhou Xian had already turned to leave. Remember not to read it too late. You have to sleep by 2 a.m. at the latest. You can read the rest tomorrow. I think I'll have to prepare 2 sleeping pills for you. I've set the alarm clock. I'll wake up before 2 a.m. If you're not asleep, you're screwed. As the study room door closed, Donald lowered his head to look at World Faction again. All right, it's Qin Guang's face again. This shameless Wuxia man's smile was so smug and sinister. Donald looked up at the time. It was almost 10:30 p.m. I wonder how the premieres of Sunshine and July are going? They'll probably be in a mess, right? I really shouldn't have left the theater. Now, as the person in charge of the Wuxia theater, I don't even know anything. Donald blamed himself as he casually flipped open World Faction Performing Arts. Great, I don't have to see that annoying guy's face anymore. I don't believe you can write a useful book. The difference between the Wuxia film industry and the Hollywood film industry is like a 3-year-old standing next to Shaquille O'Neal. World Faction Performing Arts? Are you kidding me? I only know about Performance School, Experience School, and Method School. What the hell is World Faction? Do you want to add another genre to the traditional 3 major performing genres? Do you think you're Van Gogh or Picasso? Can you be any more shameless? Where did you find a ghostwriter? How ignorant must you be to write such a book without any common sense? Donald skipped the title page and went straight to the preface. He still had a mocking look on his face. Although he had received a lot of feedback about women, and even his wife, Jenny, had changed, Donald still didn't think that Qin Guang could come up with a valuable book. Writing an academic book wasn't like telling a story. It had a high requirement for the author. Without years of experience, the book would only make people laugh. Moreover, this was the first time that Qin Guang, a Chinese internet celebrity, got shocked. He didn't know where he got the courage to go straight for the Oscars. As for writing a book on performing arts, it was even more ridiculous. Coupled with the name World Faction Performing Arts, it only proved how ignorant he was about the film industry and performing arts. If the ignorant are fearless. You don't understand why the film industry only has 3 specific systems after 100 years of development. With such thoughts in mind, Donald almost burst out laughing when he saw the first line of the preface. Some people might think that my World Faction Performing Arts is the 4th system after the first 3, but you're all wrong. The Cosmopolitan School is above all performing arts. It is the general principle of the entire performing arts system. In the future, all the classifications of performing arts will be built on the foundation of the Cosmopolitan School, just like Newton's theorem for modern science. Donald almost broke down when he heard that. Chapter 1078. If it weren't for the fact that women's reputation had exploded and that Jenny's words were still ringing in his ears, Donald would have grabbed the book and thrown it out of the window. Crazy, the whole world had gone crazy. If this kind of person had been born hundreds of years ago, he would have been burned alive on the stand. At the Wuxia Theater, the premieres of Sunshine and July were a complete mess. The comments and public opinion on the internet collapsed too. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was just a show and they might be curious about the movie. For the fans of the celebrities who were the guests of Women Today, it might be a carnival. To be able to see so many superstars of the fighting world gathered together, even if it was just a walk on stage, it would be a grand celebration. However, for movie lovers and people in the European and American film and television circles, it was a terrible tragedy and disaster. Donald Johnston's outlook on life and the world had collapsed too. However, the person who started it all, the person who almost turned the Wuxia Theater upside down, Chen Guang, was with Bonner Pierce and the others in a huge standalone villa in the wealthy area of Los Angeles. Now that everything was on track, Chen Guang only needed to finish writing the next volume of World Faction and throw the bomb out on time. He didn't have to worry about anything else. Although it would be a pity to waste an hour or two, since Mr. Pierce had made a promise, Chen Guang had to support him. It wouldn't be difficult to borrow a favor again. He planned to teach the 50 or so elites in the world of fighting and boxing a lesson in one go. The lesson was simple. All of you come together. I won't use ancient Chinese martial arts. I'll only use my fists and legs and strength. If any of you don't fly into the pool in 5 minutes, I lose. If I sweat a drop, I lose. If anyone can touch me, it's my loss. Everyone, I understand how you feel, but listen to me. If you do it one by one like you want, it'll be meaningless. It'll be a waste of time. It's not that I'm stingy, but I can't describe how I train my skills. Even if I say it and all of you hear it, you won't be able to learn it. What I possess is a power that completely surpasses the limits of human beings. I'm not talking about Huaxia's inner strength. I'm just talking about muscle strength. You can even think of me as a human from another era, and that's not wrong. But if you want to copy my training method, it's impossible. You'll die for sure. The death rate is 100%. Chen Guang stood by the side of the pool, surrounded by 3 to 5 scantily clad beauties in bikinis. They rubbed themselves against his body, but his expression did not change. He calmly explained to the boxing bosses. In the beginning, when he proposed the class method, these big shots who had helped him a lot today were actually very angry. Everyone felt that his friend was trying to fool them. Chen Guang owed him a favor, so he was exceptionally patient and explained a little more. As he explained, he pinched the stainless steel railing of the swimming pool with 2 fingers and exerted force in a very casual manner. The high-grade stainless steel railing, which was 8 millimeters thick, quickly deformed between his fingers. It was constantly being squeezed, and an ear-piercing and unpleasant crunching sound could be heard. When Chen Guang loosened his fingers, the part of the railing that was about 40 centimeters in diameter that was pinched had completely turned into flat steel. Many people in the arena could twist and bend steel pipes, but to use only 2 fingers to pinch the railing to such an extent without a change in expression was completely beyond everyone's understanding. Are your 2 fingers a hydraulic press? Oh. My God. *T. W. What a terrifying Huaxia person. What the *CK is he doing? These superstars who were used to seeing the world and were also the world's strongest boxing experts, were generally bewildered. What happened next was logical. In less than 3 minutes, Chen Guang turned the huge swimming pool into dumplings. Just as he said, there was not a single drop of sweat and no one touched the corner of his clothes. Whether it was speed or strength or even dynamic vision and brain reaction speed, Chen Guang was many times stronger than these top powerhouses who were already considered to be the limit of humanity. As for how strong he was, even he himself was not sure. He stood by the pool and looked at the people who were still soaking in the water with a smile. Everyone, what I can teach you for the time being is in the movements I made just now. Mr. Pierce recorded the whole process with a high-speed camera. You can use the high-speed camera to break down each step of my exertion of force. You should be able to clearly see my technique of exertion of force. This will be helpful to you, but as for how much you can understand, it will depend on each person's specific talent. In short, I am very grateful to everyone for today. Chen Guang's attitude was exceptionally kind. In his opinion, this was an equivalent exchange. What he took out was indeed his trump card. In the past, he had never taught anyone so formally in the past. On one hand, it was because others were not at that level and they would not be able to master it even if he taught them. On the other hand, such an important skill, of course, could not be easily taught. Many of the big shots in the fighting and boxing world were soaking in the water. Everyone was taught a lesson by Qin Guang, but they were not the least bit unhappy. Their minds were filled with his movements just now. That Mr. Qin your training method? Seeing that Qin Guang was about to leave, someone still asked unwillingly. Qin Guang thought to himself and decided to brag. Before you I also had a real disciple named Xuelin. He was a Chinese soldier. Indeed, he went through my special training and his pure strength increased by 40%, a very standard 40%. I do have a training method that can completely develop potential, but the mortality rate is as high as 90%. Xuelin's luck to be able to survive makes me envious. But the mortality rate is too high. I am not confident and I do not intend to teach it. If you want to obtain power beyond the limits of humanity, you must first be prepared to die. After that, he did not wait for the others to react and said goodbye to Mr. Pierce. As for the fiery woman's resentful gaze, he completely ignored it. It was not that he was that righteous, but there was still the next volume of World's Faction waiting to be written. The sooner he went back, the sooner he could be at ease. If he was lazy and could not finish it the day after tomorrow, it would be embarrassing. This was a matter of life and death and he could not be careless. The old man was wise, he could not drop the ball at a critical moment and die because he could not control his crotch. After Qin Guang left, the people in the pool climbed out of the water one after another. Just as they were about to urge Bonner Pierce to organize the high-speed camera, Pierce reminded them, "Friends, you seem to have forgotten something." "What?" "Shouldn't you express your views on Mr. Chen's movie on your social media accounts?" Everyone suddenly understood. 10 minutes later, except for a certain idiot who forgot to take out his phone when he was fighting and couldn't send a message due to the water on his phone, the 50 or so people updated their Twitter, Instagram and personal media in one go. They even competed with each other to see who could write more mushy praises. In the end, Big Xiu, who looked crude but was actually literary, won by an overwhelming margin. His story went like this. For the first half of my life I was just an ordinary person. Thank God for the talent I was given, allowing me to appear on the stage of WCW and WWE. On this stage I obtained glory, wealth, money and women. But most importantly, it changed me from Paul White to the Big Hugh I am today. It is because I am Biggie Hugh that I was invited by Mr. Pierce to walk into the Hollywood Wuxia Theater's Theater number 14 today and see such an incredible and great movie. I fought for the first half of my life just for this movie tonight. If you are my fans and want to know why I am so fanatical, even more fanatical than I was at WrestleMania, don't hesitate and rush to the theater next to you as fast as you can. Mr. Qin is waiting for you with his women. Everyone agreed with Big Xiu's flattering story. His flattery was innovative. It was like listening to thunder in silence. He used simple and seemingly ordinary words to boast to a new height. This flattery was both deep and broad. The key was that his personal reputation and the movie's reputation were completely tied together. It was not as superficial and straightforward as ordinary praise. More than 50 top fighting and boxing superstars updated their social media accounts at the same time, talking about the same thing, and praising it crazily in unison. Finally, they called on their fans to go to the theater. What kind of sensation would it cause on social media? At first, fans who had only followed their accounts thought that the most serious case of account theft in history had happened before they could see the latest news. It was not until later that countless fans took the initiative to search for today's news and found out that they really attended the movie premiere together that their doubts were gradually dispelled. Then, because of their idol's call, they developed a strong interest in the movie. It wasn't just these people. The geniuses of America's Dota Tower, the big shots of the global racing and underground drag racing world, world-renowned piano masters, linguists, medical giants and even 2 Nobel Prize winners all spoke out on this night. Several big shots in the civil aviation industry even had the idea to organize watching the movie in their own companies. They learned from the common practice in Wuxia. The companies paid the bill and forcibly increased the box office. Just as Qin Guang stayed up all night writing, "Oh no," writing "The Storm of Women," was about to sweep the world. At the same time in Wuxia 12 time zones away, the real premiere that was even grander than that in Los Angeles finally began. Big Beard Deng led the other main cast members apart from Qin Guang to suppress the scene. The scene could be said to be full of gongs and drums. No one could tell from Big Beard's smiling face how uncertain he was at the moment. Poor Big Beard did not know that Qin Guang had instantly turned the tables in Los Angeles. He was still worried about Qin Guang's one-person premiere in Los Angeles. He was even more worried that the negative comments from the global uproar would affect the box office of Women in Wuxia. As for the North American box office, what was that? Was it edible? Did it taste good? Chapter 1079. Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yage, dressed in luxurious dresses, stood side by side on the red carpet. They skillfully posed in either dignified or lively and lovely poses. For a moment countless films were wiped out. After the photo shoot, the two of them continued to walk to the stage side by side. Jiang Yage quietly turned her head and whispered, "Qin Guang is so pitiful. We should have gone to Los Angeles to help him." Jin Shuiwei's lips moved slightly. "It's useless. Although we are famous in China, we don't have many fans in Europe and America. Even if we go, no one will buy it." Jiang Yage said, "Sai, it's all Grandpa's fault. If he didn't refuse, I could have asked Mr. Fong or Mr. Zhou to help him." Jin Shuiwei still shook her head. Although they are famous in Europe and America, they are still Chinese. The problem that Qin Guang is facing now is not that the audience doesn't know him, but that his popularity is almost on par with Bruce Lee. But it's useless. He has been set up as the opposite of the movie. Even if we pull people from China over, it won't change the European and American audience's opinion of him and women. Jiang Yage nodded helplessly. "That's right. They will also lose their reputation." "Alas, my dear Light, this is a very unconventional course of his. Although we all think that he can win an Oscar with his acting skills, it's too rushed." Jin Shuiwei pondered for a moment. "I think he probably has his own difficulties. No matter what, we must help him stabilize the domestic box office. Although the Oscars don't care about the box office, there are still some benefits. If we can make the domestic box office reach a phenomenal level, it can make up for the loss of the North American box office to a certain extent." Jiang Yage tapped on her phone. "Yes, I just posted on Weibo." "What did you post?" "If the box office exceeds 500 million, I will release the highlights of the kissing scene. If it exceeds 1 billion, I will release the highlights of the sex scene. If it exceeds 2 billion, I will release the highlights of the light. If it exceeds 4 billion, I will..." "Forget it, I haven't written that yet." "Are you crazy? We don't have any tidbits at all. All the scenes with him were done in one take." Jiang Yage shrugged. "Why don't we just ask Qin Guang to take some shots?" You can do that." On the other hand, at 1 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles, the North American box office data for the premiere of Women was released. The total screening rate was 0.67%, the occupancy rate was 9.3%, and the total box office earnings were less than $1 million. Extremely low screening rate, extremely low attendance rate. It looked terrible, but it was completely disproportionate to these numbers. What was even more shocking was the extremely high reputation. Although the first public screening at the Wuxia Theater was completely full, it still took time for things to develop. The social media accounts of the famous guests were also a little late. The overall attendance of the first public screening in other cinemas in Los Angeles was still not high. When the data was zoomed into the United States, the average attendance was even lower. Later, the attendance of the evening screening was incredibly higher than that of the first public screening. It was a pity that it was already past midnight, so it was not included in the box office statistics on the day of the premiere. Qin Guang didn't care about what was going on outside the window. The poor employees of the Tianguang Group were heartbroken by the terrible attendance rate. Sitting in the temporary office, Fong Tianyu whined with dark circles under his eyes. "There's no reason. Our premiere is so powerful. Even if the first public screening can't be a blockbuster, it should at least be at least 10% of the seats, right? Our screening rate is already low and the attendance rate is still low. What kind of hatred does our international friends have?" Lu Xiaoyang comforted him. "Fong, don't worry. Even if we can make a comeback at the premiere, it will take time for the news to spread, right? Even if many people want to change their minds because of the guests, it is already nighttime. Most people won't go out at night just to watch a movie. Let's wait and see. There should be a surprise in the attendance rate tomorrow. We can't do anything about it on the day of the premiere. How can you be so calm, buttface? You don't understand, Feng Tianyu. After staying with the boss for a long time, I feel that I have a tendency to be like the boss. Look at my face. Don't you think I have the demeanor of a general now? It's hard to say about the demeanor of a general, but you are really crazy. Screw you. After talking for a while and communicating with Yu Hong in China, they forcibly encouraged Qin Guang's inexplicable confidence. After that, they went back to the hotel and went to sleep with their own thoughts. The next morning, the sun rose as usual and everything looked so ordinary. But no one knew that this would be the most crazy day in the history of movies. When the future generations recalled this day, they couldn't help but tremble with fear. At 9:30 in the morning, the ticket seller of the Wuxia Theater in Hollywood opened the ticket window sleepily as usual. The first screening of the day was at 10 o'clock in the morning, but there were usually few audiences in the morning. Maybe the first movie tickets would be sold at 9:50 in the morning. The ticket seller thought to himself as he raised his eyes and looked forward. Wait, are my eyes playing tricks on me? What's going on? The ticket seller rubbed his eyes to make sure that he wasn't seeing things. Looking out from the window, he saw a long line of people winding through the window all the way to the stairs 20 or 30 meters away. There were obviously people lining up at the bottom of the stairs. The ticket seller stretched his neck and looked down. He actually saw the long line on the square through the stairs. The line was at least 100 meters long, right? Am I dreaming? The poor ticket seller pinched his thigh hard to make sure that he was awake. This kind of queuing situation was not uncommon in the Wuxia Theater, but that was only at night. It was impossible to get in during the day, especially the first screening in the morning. 2 tickets for women, please. Just when the ticket seller was in a daze, the strong man at the front of the line had already shouted. Okay. The ticket seller didn't expect that his busy work would start so early. Half an hour after the morning screening, the real-time statistics of the North American box office were released. The screening rate of women was still only 0.67%. As a big new movie, it was hard for people to look at it directly. It was even worse than a roadside picnic. However, the attendance rate of women had completely reversed. It even made people in the European and American film circles fly into a rage and scream horribly. 99.8%. Almost 100% attendance rate for the morning screening. What kind of concept was this? This was going against the natural order of things. No, it was already going against the natural order of things. How many years had it been since such an attendance rate had appeared in the history of movies? Even the popular Titanic couldn't achieve this in the primetime slot. After all, many people didn't like to sit in the first row or in the corner, even if they had to wait for the next screening. There was really no need to squeeze everyone in the same theater and push the attendance rate to an insane 99%. Although he didn't want to admit it, this was close to a historical 100% attendance rate. But it was still in the morning. In the afternoon and evening, this terrifying figure was very likely to be obtained by him. We were still frantically boycotting this movie yesterday. Today you made its attendance rate soar to a historical level. How could we accept this? What was this? The biggest irony? The people in the film circle thought of the news report they saw last night, and then thought of Qin Guang's horrible guests who fell from the sky and felt like crying. They thought that the people in the circle would unite to call on their own fans or fans to boycott him, and that would be enough to make him leave dejectedly. Before his premiere, everything had looked perfect, but in the last 5 minutes he had turned the tables around. That's right. Everyone thought that those guests were invited by Qin Guang. No one believed that the guests came uninvited. Even if someone told them the truth, they would not be willing to accept it. They would only feel that the world was broken. Seen on these well-developed idiots. And those who were engaged in academics, did your brains go bad from learning medical language? You idiots, Raven Holland and Perez. You're all world-renowned piano artists after all. Don't you have any artistic pursuits? Don't you understand how ironic his behavior is? And those racers. Hamilton, don't you have any sense of social responsibility? Do you know what kind of people you're supporting? I heard that there are some esports players who don't do their jobs. And there are idiots who only know how to fly planes. In the words of the Chinese, you are all helping the wicked. On the second day of its screening, women, achieved a 180-degree reversal in the number of seats from hell to heaven. It's precisely because you idiots who have no conscience, no standpoint, and no respect for art went against your conscience, dug your eyes out, and spread ignorant comments on the internet that flattered such a lousy film without any bottom line. The influence of the F1 champion, the WRC champion, and the Dakar champion was undoubtedly world-class. The influence of boxing superstars such as Sinon, Verbal Cannon, and Mayweather was also world-class. These people mobilized their fans to support women, coupled with their flattering words that would make people blush, would inevitably make some people who did not usually go to the cinema pay for tickets. There were many people who went to watch the movie, but the screening rate was extremely low. The direct result was, of course, that the attendance rate exploded on the spot. The heavenly Tao reincarnated. Everything had long since been predestined. The audience that provided 9.3% attendance rate for women yesterday was less than 10,000 people. They must have all been paid by the Chinese. There were less than 10,000 people in the audience that attended 9.3% of the seats for women yesterday. All of them must have been paid by the Chinese to be fake reviewers. Or else, how could the so-called ordinary people on the internet who claim to be neutral and just an ordinary audience applaud so uniformly? Rotten Tomatoes fresh 98.7%. There were less than 100 votes, and the only negative comment was even a tie. Sorry, my hand slipped and I clicked the wrong button. What was this? IMDb score of 10 points. Okay, the number of voters was also less than 100. What was this? Just how shameless and deranged a person must be to be able to bribe the internet water army so brazenly. In short, with your shamelessness and the torrent of yuan, you successfully swindled a terrifying 99.8% attendance rate this morning. But now there were nearly 100,000 people in the audience. We don't believe that your torrent of yuan can still play a role. At noon, when the negative comments started to appear, maybe you could continue to increase the attendance rate in the afternoon, but at the peak hour in the evening, the negative comments would show your true colors. At this point, the people in the European and American film industry could only hope for this. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.